do it. There, I did not do the going live tweet. They'll get the notification on Twitter anyway with the X broadcast. It is. Don't you just love when a banger goes wild and now everyone and their mother is simultaneously aware of it?
Well, a lot of people have been speculating. There was that great Death in June live performance in New York in I believe 2001, where he goes, a lot of people are speculating. You know, it's like Doug P's like low gravelly voice. A lot of people are speculating what this album's about and its meaning on the internet. But really, it's about three little piggies that didn't go to market. And then he starts playing All Pigs Must Die. So, Canadian Bacon.
Okay, have you seen that movie?
Yes, I've seen.
I love that film.
It's been many years, but I've seen this movie. Yeah.
It's a great movie.
Oh
man, what a fun time. I'm gonna crash out. Why? You're gonna crash out?
Maybe.
You're going to crash out over a couple of pigs with a fresh cut fade?
Listen, this ain't summer 79. Or sorry, this ain't summer 69. You know. How many Death in June lines can I memorize, folks? How
many? What more do I have to say?
I kept listening.
You're going to crash out, Tweed Jacket enthusiast? You're not going to be able to raise the hammer, not at the butcher's knife, at a wigger pig with a fresh cut fade? You can't do it? I understand. I couldn't do it either. Now look at me. I'm balling.
Cover their faces in blood. Oh.
But this is the Digital Archipelago, episode 142. Slaughterhouse fades, because I had to incorporate this meme. I've been seeing that pig picture everywhere. I don't get where it's from. So, as I mentioned at the beginning before the Death in June references, Howling Mutant made this. I don't know where he found this picture, but he found the picture of this pig, and he's like, "Could you kill it in the slaughterhouse?" It looks at you, and then because of AI, everyone else has been having fun. So the one that Gio has is one I asked Grok to do to put it in a fez. It's like, would you kill this pig if it started talking about neoliberal kitsch on the slaughterhouse assembly line? Could you do it?
You know what's funny is that I was actually talking about this with Astro last night. I mentioned Wigger Pig. Like it's one of the rare memes that, yes, it is slop, but it does like have a bit of like a folksy, like almost cozy type of.
I think it's the perfect meme for the slop generation. I think it's so good in this age where anyone and their mother can make crap with just a few prompts, right? Because remember, like maybe 6 months ago, where you had like all those like remote AI training jobs, and you had titles like "I'm a vibe coder," "I'm a prompt engineer." I'm sure some of that is actually real, but it's like now everyone and their mom is a prompt engineer, and behold, you get Wigger Pig, and this is where we're at. This really says a lot about our slop society. I agree, Spedford. I really do agree.
Oh my god. Even like it's hit the normie sphere. Like I was listening to I was driving my mother to some appointment, and I was listening to Ben Mulrooney, and they were talking about vibes coding jobs. I'm like, oh my god, if it's like hitting like mainstream Canadian talk radio, then it's like, you know, it's pretty much over. There was some.
I don't know if it's over though, because just like, you know, Jane's Addiction, I'm pretty much a pig in Zen right now. That's pretty nice.
I never clocked you for a Jane's Addiction fan.
I'm full of surprises. Jay Ford asked me, what is my default profile picture based on? So this is based off of a portrait of Clemens von Metternich of Austria, and then I just had him done as a frog. And then the guy who did the music for my old geopolitical lectures had this really nice synthesizer sound mix board background, and I've used it ever since. It's a great time, but we're going to go back to the pig for at least another 30 minutes so people don't know what the hell is going
concert. On. It's like a 9 Inch Nails deck board.
It's a March of the Piggies. That's right, baby.
It's
a slopular topic.
I wasn't even thinking about that song. I wasn't even. Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Well, no, I mean it really is true though. I mean, this has been the one sort of nice meme, the pig in the coal chamber, so to speak, which is also a song. But it's the pig in the coal chamber. Wow, that's a new
I
elephant in the
actually
room.
like some certain coal chamber songs back in the day.
Well, coal chamber is what we've been sentenced to in the Twitter wheel of Samsara, it seems. But no, I have a lot more to say about that in a minute. Thoughts on the new Smiling Friends? I think that they're just trying to get away with the most insane shit ever. I don't know if they got a season 4 renewal for their contract or whatever, but
they have to, considering how popular they are.
Oh, I hope so, but they went.
Adult Swim's allergic to money, as we know.
Oh well, I don't know. I guess Adult Swim, I think, has made a lot of banger. They've had a lot of banger shows.
Well, of recent years.
Oh, yeah,
since 2016.
Wasn't Ghost and Mr. Boss needing the money for his gaming PC a Chris Chan reference? Yeah, it was. And also, I could have lived without the Alan Mr. Boss scene at all. Oh, they got renewed for 4 and 5. Well, good for them. I think now they're just fucking with the waters, because I thought it was great when they did the whole Mr. Frog thing at the beginning, and it was the I'm with stupid t-shirts with him and Jeff Epstein. That was really, really entertaining. This is what happens when you get a bunch of like Newgrounds animators together to make a quality show. And I really do think that it is the Adult Swim show for the 2020s, because our friend Owen Cyclops did a really good thread breaking down how Rick and Morty was the epitome of like the 2010s nihilist irony cell kind of mentality. And as the show has come to its end, like I was in college when that show came out, and I remember I have this distinct memory. I won't say his name, but I remember a friend of mine who's kind of a nerd. He had like rushed to me while we were at this speech and debate tournament, which already kind of tells you who I was in college. And I think we were at some national competition, and he approaches me kind of soy jacking IRL, explaining to me that like I think season 2's premiere just dropped. And I'm sitting there in the hotel lobby and I'm talking to my college girlfriend, and I'm just like, that's cool, dude. I'm going to go talk to my girlfriend now.
Oh my God.
I think I'm going to pass, because that's the kind of guy I was when I was like 21 years old. And now it's all over, but that's okay.
Oh my God.
You left me at home and I forgot. That was just a prank. So true. I'm so old that the first Justin Roiland show I watched was House of Cosby's on Channel 101.
Oh my God.
Ooh boy, that's true.
Maybe, do you think Smiling Friends would ever go out with a bang by like having like a guest animation by Emily Yukis, or that's never going to happen?
I hope that in future seasons they make reference to the Will Stancil show.
Well, they make fence to Alfred Alfred. It seems that nobody knows. That's a shame, man, because like Alfred
I thought it was really funny when Chris Rufo had like added Emily and was like, wow, like this is really like talented work and this is really funny.
God.
And I'm like, Rufo, you have no idea who you're talking to. Like ideologically speaking, like this
really is incapable
really funny.
Of not putting his foot in his mouth. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do?
Oh well, it's all pearls before swine here, which is also a really great comment. I'm gonna keep up the pig puns. I'm sorry, I'm bringing home the bacon this evening.
If someone wants to pay me my usual fee, I will review Pearls Before Swine, the collaboration between Death in June and Boyd Rice. It's a great film. I mean, the acting is atrocious, but it's a great film. Pearls Before Swine, especially the scene between Douglas P. and Boyd Rice, where they're talking about these like fetish magazines that Doug P.'s selling to Boyd Rice. And but yeah, Pearls Before Swine. But Smiling Friends season 6 entirely dawned by Pendleton Ward in the blood of Rebecca Sugar. Oh,
nice. Oh man, no. So I'm not going to read the rest of chat.
First season of Adventure Time. I actually have like my friend bought me an Adventure Time poster. It's in the back. I still have it hanging in the back. I don't know if everyone.
It is a TV show I never watched. A lot of animation stuff I never watched. But I'm also the kind of guy that just didn't go actively looking for it. Like I did not discover Over the Garden Wall until like 2 years ago. So I'm terribly out of touch in a lot of ways, and that's okay. But okay.
Did you see that? Let's not talk shit about Chris Rufo.
Did I see the new show that he's on? Yeah. No, I did not. I did not watch it. It is on my watch later, although I know this is probably really bad for me, and I'm sure I'll get a lot of people who are very more health conscious than I am in the comments. I recently bought a pair of wireless headphones. And I really like them when I'm at work because I can have my phone plugged in,
AirPods.
or I can. Yeah, well, no, I mean, like, they're like the cheap fucking Walmart brand, like wireless headphones, and I really, really like them. And it's great, so I can catch up on like actual because I don't watch a lot of content to begin with, because it's like I'm a content producer or creator, whatever the hell term you want to call it. And it's just like I really don't have time, but now I can like catch up on podcasts and things that I like without constantly needing to drag my phone around, because I'm often super busy at work, so I really appreciate them. And so, whoa, the PFPs. Well, someone just tuned in. Ain't that nice? But with that being said, no, I've been catching up on a lot of stuff, and it's on my watch later to do. But I'm curious to see how it goes, and also maybe I'll get invited. God only knows.
No comment. No comment.
Oh man. Hold on. I gotta save this one. I gotta go add that to my list.
I would love to grift on the Blaze, but maybe that's not good for but anyways.
I need to get rid of the profile picture now. Which one do
I
get rid of?
Are you getting rid of the pro? Why?
No, I'm adding one because Jay Ford just made one for me.
Okay.
This is so
Frog
good.
Pig Man?
It's another Pig Man.
That's like that Brockich film Dogman Star, but it's like Frog Pig Man.
Yeah, we're going whole hog. We're really just going whole hog tonight.
It's like Babe. It's like Babe.
It's Babe, Pig in the City. I really liked that movie.
I loved it when I was a kid.
The Babe movies
I watched it with my aunt.
Yeah.
Babe was great.
It's classy. I do agree. It's classy. But it's a really good time.
Oh my god.
Gio should use the Koofy hat instead of on the Fez one. That's
a great one. I'll grok it later. Too.
Jay Ford has already won for the evening so far, but we'll see until the super chats get here. But isn't it fun that all of a sudden, in the aftermath of the ongoing sort of Con Inc. Napoleon or
War
Napoleon.
on the Grapers?
No, this is not Napoleon. This is this is Metternich now, but as a pig. It's Metterpig is what it is. It took a good 5 minutes to make like the cave incoming meme. So true. So anyways, in the midst of all of the Con Inc. infighting and the greatest ordeal of civility since Alexander Alexander or Peter II? No, it's Alexander II. So since the greatest ordeal of civility is played out on my timeline, it has been really interesting to watch the usual containment media crowd like Konstantin Kisin and countless others. I want to say they got the call because now they're kind of making these concessions saying like, well, I don't like him. I don't like listening to him. I don't like his ideology, but I understand why he's got such an audience as they're trying to like now shift.
Nick Fuentes?
Yeah, well, not just Nick, but just about like the general rage that like white men under 30 have because functionally as a political formula, they have been denied tribalism. They have been denied functionally any access to the U.S. economy that doesn't perpetually put them on a track of downward mobility or relying on inheritance to make do. And so I listened to Kisin talk about it. And I also watched Kisin. I saw Local Distance talk about it. And they're all going out of their way, framing it as they're trying to give some sort of concession to various claims that like this is where we're going. And Morgoth was talking about it with our friend Dimes earlier today. They had a really great conversation. It's
really I was too busy, but I have to go and watch that.
And I
hope Dimes is listening, and I hope Dimes is working away at a very important project that I've tasked him with.
You hired him.
I'm going to post the rabbit with the noose in Dimes's comment section. yeah. I want him to help. He's helping me out with my website. So
that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So
yeah. The Blood Satellite Morgoth stream was really good. But I've noticed, however, that there has now been this sudden like pivot, an about face, so to speak, where now all of a sudden the conversation is really oriented around like, well, how can we slap a Band-Aid on an open and gangrenous wound? And that's really all that this is, because it's not like there's a decade of media history at this point, or maybe less than a decade, but especially with like Konstantin Kisin and all the trigonometry people actively working for progressive interests and openly denying the rights of like British people wanting to defend themselves or maintain their majority in the face of ethnic cleansing of cities and targeted like rape gangs. So it's like, okay, you can't just all of a sudden pivot and make concessions where no one's going to believe you.
Oh, and the BBC thing recently as well.
Oh, and the BBC scandal, thing too. I don't know it. I don't know enough of what's happened in that regard. I know that some have called it a coup, others have called it a change in policy, but
they basically essentially revealed all of the censorship that they were doing
over
the years. Yeah. So I know Nigel Farage.
Well, they confirmed everything that we kind of already knew.
Yeah, everybody knew. Yeah. Here's my impression of Konstantin Kisin. If only young men had fathers, then maybe they would behave better and they would sign up and join and they would get domed by a Russian ATACMS missile. That would be great. Or they would go and they would invade the shores of Iran. And so it's the problem is young men don't have fathers, and so they listen to Nick Fuentes or BAP or whoever, and they're not signing up to go and get killed by a Russian or an Iranian. And that's my impression of Constant. That was his cool video, by the way. Young men, it was just psychologizing. It was young men don't have fathers, young men have no guidance, and so therefore they're not good little neocons like me. That's basically the whole video. I saved you some time, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that too, and then on Halloween they had our appeal to authority. Like it's the every conservative TV show ever, like Last Man Standing, where like we have to rely on the voice of authority to validate our opinions, being a black guy. So like trigonometry on Halloween, they were like, well, isolationism is stupid. And it's just like, well, we're not going to really get a full, actual definition of what this is. Instead, we're just going to call out like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I don't even like. I don't like MTG all that much. I think that she's like a broken clock or a dartboard. Like occasionally you can throw something at her and she'll get the right response. Although I do like some of the things she's more recently been saying. But it's just like, so this is what we've been doing, which has been constantly and I love their definition. Having honest conversations with fascinating people. There's nothing honest and there's nothing fascinating. It is openly transparent. It is received grants and financial support from various bad actors, and the worst people on earth are the hosts of the show. And so it's like, it's very interesting to see like all of a sudden, just with a snap, we're now understanding like, well, we have to find a way to placate these people. And it's just like, well, you're not going to. And those that are already on this particular side of things already kind of recognize that this is the battle that has to be had, which is, do the people that you have been demonizing for years are going to push you out of the side and do not want you to be talking or speaking for them? Or are you going to try and get ahead of the game and try and nudge, as so many nudge units and other political actors do, which I think ties really well to the lecture/essay we're going to be talking about later this episode. It's really interesting because you and I have been around.
Just joined the stream. Huh? Someone said, I thought Kisin just joined the stream on Gio's end. Yeah. Kissin's father was actually, someone said, it's very ironic because Kissin's father was renowned for his upright behavior. Oh, yes. You mean Konstantin Kissin's father, Vadim Kisin, who was raping and robbing the Russian people dry during the 1990s through various tax defrauding and business endeavors? You mean that Vadim Kisin, who was essentially destroying his own people because he was like in bed with the oligarchs and all that? Very good mob. But Konstantin Kisin will sit there and tell you that young men don't have fathers, and that's why they're not good little liberals anymore. So, yeah, that's really good. Sorry, Prudy, you were saying something.
No, I mean,
I'm getting angry. I shouldn't.
It's been a somewhat frustrating couple of days to say. Well, not really a couple of days. It's just been really frustrating. So that's been happening. And then earlier today, apparently, Laura Ingraham interviewed Trump. And Laura Ingraham held Trump's ass to the fire about H-1B visas. And this is on top of Trump's earlier comment about 600,000 Chinese students who it's not like over the last several years the Chinese have flown drones over federal land, haven't flown spy balloons, and the Biden administration took forever to actually shoot down and basically got photographs of the entire continental U.S. And he's like, well, some of these colleges would go out of business. And it's like, maybe it would be good if most colleges went out of business. But okay, Trump, like that's fine. I'm sold just as much on this as I am on the 50-year mortgage. So,
yes, but the DHS Twitter account, the millennial running it, will make a Hyperborean edit with spinny wheels. But yet, Trump will say we need 600,000 Chinese students to prop up failing universities at the same time. And the vibes based.
As I said this to our friend Volpez, who, if you are a YouTube channel member, you can see the whole episode already. I will have everything else out for regular viewers on Thursday for the teaser, like 40 minutes for the hour-and-a-half conversation we had. I really like that model. I think it's a good model for paywalled content where, you know, the listener gets most of it, but the good stuff's behind the paywall. But it's frustrating because the propaganda does not match the actions of the administration. And while I know that I am not immune to propaganda, I also still have working olfactory senses, and I can smell bullshit when I smell it, as well as when I see it. And
that's
I don't
racism, according to one PhD thesis.
Oh, that is true. The structural racism, or like, what is it? Olfactory racism.
Oppression.
Olfactory oppression. Okay, I do appreciate the alliteration.
It's good. It was a good title. I gotta admit, it was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, she's really got that. That's a truffle that you can really just sniff out. That's a good one. I'm really just hamming it up. It's really bad.
I'm not laughing because I'm forcing myself for the show. No, to me, it's like genuinely funny. Like, it seems the theme of tonight is like the Wigger Pig show.
Oh man, that's what I should rename this stream, is the Way of the Wigger Pig.
I don't think you could put Wigger in the YouTube comment title.
I don't know. Could you?
No, I know that they don't like that.
Do they? I'm going to YouTube right now.
It's too close.
We're going to YouTube. I'm literally looking up that word. What is the top post, of course, when you look up the word Wigger on YouTube, is the Xavier Renegade Angel clip about what do you call these wind monkeys? Xavier Renegade Angel is probably one of the best pieces of adult animated content in the early 21st century. I think it's really good.
Last stream we talked about Wonder Shows, and it was actually the same creators as Xavier Renegade Angel.
Oh yeah.
Well, Wonder Shows is quite a trip, but the tornado one in Xavier, the tornadoes.
Yeah, it's really good.
You would never get away with that. Like,
can't, which is really, it's kind of wild what you can and can't get away with. I think there has been this subtle renaissance of independent creators, especially animators, where I think Space King is probably the best example of this working independently. Speedo's Punch Forever is fucking hilarious. Although he can never go completely straight. He still likes a little too much bacon in between the legs, it seems. But regardless of which, he's been having a renaissance of trying to make like a humorous show. And then, of course, the Newgrounds animators have been having like they're finally getting their time in the spotlight, which I greatly appreciate. It's very
including Emily Yukis,
yeah, even that too. I mean, like, she's got her own. It's just on Twitter. It's been really good.
No, but I think the reason I mention her is because I think people, because of the popularity of the Will Stonsel show, I think people forget that she was very integral to the whole Newground scene with Alfred Alfer. Alfred Alfer was one of the more semi-mainstream internet shows, and she was just, she was this weird kind of poor kid from the side of Pennsylvania, and I forget which university she went to. She mentions how it was near the ghetto. And so she was she would have to dress in really baggy clothing so certain people wouldn't accost her every day going to class. But no, it's just she was very integral to that whole scene. Her, David Firth, who else am I thinking of? There was a bunch of them. I remember Lev because Lev was a part of the scene, so he used to talk about this all the time. But yeah, like it is kind of funny how like Zoomer girls on TikTok, they've discovered Alfred Alfer, but Twitter racists have like the Will Stonsel show. Like millennial Twitter racists have Will Stonsel show. Zoomer TikTok girls have Alfred Alfer. And it's like a very funny,
Yeah, but, it's a particularly strange time. And it's kind of weird how there's sort of these cycles of like which social media platform tries to imitate the last successful social media platform with a few minor adjustments. Like I remember when Facebook slowly turned into BuzzFeed.
Yeah.
And the BuzzFeedification of everything, where everything had like a top 10 list. There was always user engagement, ways to get more metadata and personality traits. I still remain thoroughly convinced, and I know that like I don't need confirmation for this. This is just like I trust my gut. But like every which Harry Potter character are you, or which Pretty Little Liars girl like quiz that was on BuzzFeed for like early millennial women to fantasize being groomed by their like male teacher was going to then be sold to like Cambridge Analytica to help, Democratic candidates for targeted advertising in like the 2016 election. And I think that that's true in the same way that I think the way that form of engagement via creation of content that you can now like post and share and like invite others to do so was also really great social media network mapping for various users and ways in which you could get more adverts, or better yet, to make sure that the phone was always listening. And so now, as Twitter has been slowly turned into it's not Instagram in the point of like, how blatant it can be with the reels, because like there's still takes and tweets and things. Yeah. But it is very apparent that this is all about that BuzzFeed model of engagement bait. And it's kind of like Reddit too, where like you
they have a Bangers account now, official Bangers account.
Yes, we now have the official Twitter Bangers account. And let me go pull this up because it's atrocious. Twitter Bangers, certified bangers only. Which I don't know if that means from like actual banger accounts or like none of you can see my message.
No, which celebrity crush are you?
Yeah, so like the top 5. This came out yesterday. We've tested certified bangers, and so the first banger that gets posted is just open fucking engagement slop.
Yep. And that person crashed out by. Oh no, there was another person.
I'm
crashed out by the way because Twitter didn't want to pay him or something.
Wasn't that what got the whole Nikita Beer thing and people's attention, because he gave them like $10,000 afterwards?
Yeah.
For full disclosure, when the Twitter payout stuff comes out, I make roughly on average anywhere between $105 to $155. This is not something that I'm like walking away pumping engagement slop. I guarantee you that every Friday night tweet I put out that is on every Friday night except for Good and Holy Friday, it's not there. It does not bring in the big bucks. I can guarantee you. I'm not a slop engagement kind of guy. I just think it's funny that the first Twitter, like the first banger, is a 285.9 million views, certified banger from November 10th. But this is from October 17th, and it's just the lore behind your profile pictures. Like it's just open engagement slop.
I painted my profile picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, not this one. I mean, my real one, not the Wigger Pig. Yeah. But
Prude getting the Elon bucks. Yeah, it's probably the only thing that you can say that I get besides being found by viewers like you. Dudley rounds up the Twitter bangers every Friday. Yeah, because he took over from John Carter, who used to do This Week in Frog Twitter, and This Week in Frog Twitter was objectively better.
Yeah,
because it wasn't trying to.
If I was taking money, I wouldn't have been talking shit about Peter Thiel like I was. With that
was probably the best part about the Dimes Morgoth interview today, where Dimes is like trying to explain to Morgoth, like, what the hell is all this Antichrist stuff? Because like Morgoth's not a religious man, but Morgoth also has no idea what the hell this Peter Thiel Antichrist thing is. And so Dimes explains to him, and then all of a sudden he's like, and then Peter does the totally rational thing when someone accuses you of being the Antichrist. You go on a lecture tour explaining that you're not the Antichrist.
So yeah, I if you go after the show, of course, if you go to Astral Flight Simulation on Substack, he interviewed me about my article I did, Lifeless Dead. And I got to this point. I mentioned the for some reasons, Contrary Pancake believes it never existed, and I can kind of see where he's coming from. But I was talking about the Silicon Valley, the Californian ideology, and how there still is like this pervasive undercurrent that existed at the time of like the New Age movement and libertarianism combining together, and how Silicon Valley was sort of like a cross between the two. Because what does Peter Thiel say in his basic butchered thesis is that AI regulation will lead to the Antichrist. So he's still presenting you in the what we're now in, like what how many years into the 21st century, right? In 2025, he's giving you a libertarianism that is cloaked as a biblical like end times I was going to say dispensations, but as an end time revelation that has like certain new agey vibes based consciousness undertones. So it's like him and Elon, because they not both work at PayPal together. They both have this revivalism of this intersection of the new age and libertarianism that constituted a huge part of the California ideology. Because he's like, no, the Antichrist will not use it's not that they'll use AI, but if they, they'll the state will clamp down on AI. And so therefore you have to give me power over AI to prevent the Antichrist. And obviously shamelessly trying to appeal to whatever is left of the evangelical moral majority in the Trump administration. So, and it's like, yeah, let's trust the future to Peter Thiel and Sam Altman and other people, because don't you know the Antichrist will then use central planning to take over, but I'm going to use central planning only like a CEO monarchist, Mulbuggian way, but it's not central planning because I'm a private corporation, which makes it, in terms of the rise of the Antichrist, makes it a bit different than if like the state took over AI.
No way.
And the Chinese, no way. And don't you know that like we gotta also beat the Chinese, because the Chinese have their own version of the Antichrist. It's not that NVIDIA is like producing the majority of chips for AI, and so we have to like have this like this neocon fucking line about Taiwan. It's just like it goes on and on and on and on. I'm tired of like if there's any dissident party line out there. No, I just think it's foolish. I think it's foolish. I think that I get where he's coming from. I know I'm being a bit facetious, because if you could tell, I don't trust any of these people, Sam Altman, Peter Thiel, whoever. But I get where he's coming from, but I know the thought pattern and I know the process. I know the train of logic that Peter Thiel wants you to go down when it comes to this thing about the Antichrist. And I'm totally skeptical of it. But again, I do this more as a sociological point about the development of a certain vibe, a certain connection that happened in the mid-90s in Silicon Valley between libertarianism and the New Age movement. And there's other ones as well, like Eastland Institute always used to host these different people.
So the answer to that is no, boy Giant Gio. And the reason why the answer is no is because it's there's already too much money behind it, and I don't think that you can just if you cut the legs out from underneath it, I'd imagine it would bring down whatever is left of the economy with it. Secondly, like Amazon Web Service, etc., probably uses AI in a lot of ways that we don't know. Yeah. Third, it's a lot like military technology. Realism dictates you can't put it away. And most people are probably already accustomed to it as it is, even though it has a greatly drastic impact on productivity. They've already turned off a lot of Microsoft's like Copilot thing at Microsoft, offices, because it decreased user productivity and it decreased their employers' productivity. So I have GPT-5 OpenAI at work. It is helpful for me, if I wanted to do research on something or to look up sort of what my
helps my
company is
grammar.
doing. Well, and it also just helps give me general outlines for things, or if I need to get like boilerplate copy for something, it certainly helps in with what I do. And it's just but however, like it doesn't, I don't think it takes away, it does, it's like a muscle, if you don't practice your own brain, it will atrophy. And it's particularly interesting because all media is an extension of the human body and of the human mind. So what do you do when you essentially create another mind to do some of that lower level, like kind of unconscious thinking for you when it comes to doing research, and it's more effective at it than, say, the average person? It's like severing the corpus callosum between the left and the right hemispheres, because now you don't know what your own brain is doing and you've outsourced it to somewhere else. So that'll be an interesting consequence in the coming years ahead as AI continues to improve, or if we hit another AI winter. But I think just on the raw technical applications, you are not going to see a stop to AI development and research. And also just because, I just think that it will probably maintain a lot of the sort of necro economy in the United States. And what I mean by necro economy is it's going to be heavily economically depressed areas that have been hollowed out by deindustrialization or immigration that will inevitably have the greatest sector of their economy be healthcare. I live in a necro economy zone where the greatest area of economic growth and development is in healthcare, specifically tending towards the obese and the dying and the elderly. And that's the great sign that the area that you live in is economically depressed, dying, or not doing so well. I am very fortunate that I have a full-time job, and I can take care of myself, and my fiance works. Like, we're both doing okay. But at the same time, if I wanted to make even bigger money, I would probably make a career transition into sort of like the healthcare industry, because that seems to be the only industry that's booming, because that's the only place where people are getting older and dying.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly frustrating, but I've been going on.
No, but like me, that's me and Astro talking about. We're more talking about like how there will be a bifurcation of of the human mind, and there will be a lot of, like, the vast majority of people will sort of Tweet Jackman's telling me to check my thing. So
you got added on Twitter, I think.
Yeah, and so no, but how the vast majority of people will simply not be able to handle what was promised as the, and we were talking a lot about Teilhard de Chardin and the idea of the new sphere, and Kerwin's article critiquing that. But the vast majority of people will not be able to simply handle what the AI future is going to give people. And whereas some people will be quite apt at sort of navigating the swarm, as Byung-Chul Han calls it. But yeah, anyways, I don't want to rob Astra, so just go and listen to it. But no, I think like we did kind of like foil over the Konstantin Kisin thing, which I wanted to talk a little bit about. But anyways, here's what Tweet Enthusiast, this is the avatar he gave me. So
I love it. I love it. This is perfect. Are the pig PFPs a mirror for the pay pigs in the audience? First of all, you're pay frogs.
You're pay angels, actually.
You're pay angels. You're pay angels and you're pay froggies, and we love all of the financial stuff that you do. Looks Moorish. Well, it fits him. He's Italian. He's Italian. If you plan on talking about Sydney Sweeney, go ahead and make it quick, Gio.
No.
Do you have a take?
Don't care.
Do you have a take?
My take is that I think you people have.
It was tasteful.
No, okay. I think okay. Here's, if you want a serious take, I think it's a good thing that celebrities are willing to say, like, I'm an apolitical normie, leave me alone. But don't pretend that that is like some big, huge shift in culture, because there still is the Zendayas of the world who said, I'm never going to associate with, they were both in Euphoria, apparently.
Yes.
I'm never going to associate with Sydney Sweeney ever again for her Republican talking points, which is like, I'm an apolitical normie, leave me alone. And so I do see why people were so I was going to say euphoric.
I love how when I put that comment up there, I thought you were going to talk about the dress, and that's why I said it was tasteful. Whereas
That was a good dress.
Yeah, we whole hog on that one.
There is something about her, I think, like there is maybe a level of not. Is she like really the most beautiful woman in the world? Or is it just that she has a very particular look that I notice is very particular to like, you know, the American.
Sorry, chat's really entertaining right now. Hot take: she's got huge honking cans.
Okay,
Hell
that's
yeah,
what it
brother.
is. That's what it is.
I mean, well, it's that, but I think also just
she's got a bit of derp in her. She's got a bit of derpiness. I think that's why she's attractive.
She's the dorky girlfriend that you probably had sex with in high school or college. Like that's more or less.
Yeah, but not
a
nerd though. She's not a nerd girl.
No, she's just derpy.
Yeah.
She's the quirk chungus without all the characteristics of being one. She just has that.
She's the hot girl version of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Wait, she has a face? Yeah, and it's okay, you know.
I forget who said it. I think it was Dystopian GF on Twitter that said she, as a hot girl, she's been used to that her whole life with her nerdy like friends. She's like, no, Becky, we're not going to talk about that.
I think that our friend Kovefe Anon had said a couple of years ago, and I don't remember, I think it was on Kashuter or somewhere else, where he had said, I think our definition of like what's hot has been so thoroughly been desensitized because we're exposed either to like pornography, bait, e-girls, women in the workplace, etc. Like your definition for what is attractive has been thoroughly watered and washed down. And it doesn't help that a lot of the Hollywood actresses that you're forced to put up with are not particularly good looking either, or that we're pushing this like, a girl boss kind of initiative where it's just like, well, that's already like, even if she's physically attractive, it's just like I think in a lot of ways, I think like Daisy Ridley is a very like attractive or at least like a beautiful woman. But at the same time, I'm just like, she can't act for shit, and her like and everything she's been in terms of film and TV has been awful. So it's like whatever beauty that might be there is kind of belittled or lessened and watered down by the product that she is in. Like I'm sorry, like I'm a traitor or whatever, but like I was radicalized by Attack of the Clones and seeing Natalie Portman's midriff and seeing her act like a quirky girlfriend in Garden State, which tells you how old I am and that I have the musical taste of an early 2000s hipster shitlib. But nevertheless, here we are. Anyway, you slice it, my ass is ham and I'm cooked.
Yeah. Oh, apparently the Maple Leafs are dramatically failing, and it's only the first period. That's really great.
No. Dave pushed his stream 30 minutes later than scheduled. The DA bros are eating well. I don't know if Dave did that for us or just because he's a busy man with a wife and kid, and we're not that over here. Although that'll probably change for me in like a year, so we'll see what happens. My life's about to change. Garden State is when Manic Pixie Dream Girl was mainstreamed as a phrase / concept. Is it? I guess so. She definitely met that definition. For me, it was always Ramona Flowers that fit that definition, or Deschanel's character in 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah.
That was literally me. I don't care. I do not care. I was a guy who went to stomp clap musics. I don't really care.
Oh man. No, Cindy Sweeney. No, I don't think it's like indicative of a huge cultural moment. I mean, it is.
It really just comes to show you when it comes to the discourse over actresses, men are pigs.
No, it's true. I mean, it's.
And here we are talking about like what is hot and what is attractive, and what a really fitting like tie-in to the essay that Gio and I are going to be reading today.
Yeah,
a lot of Americans and a lot of North Americans and Canadians, we love our favorite Canadian media theorist, and a lot of people consider him a prophet. That of Marshall McLuhan. But on the other side, of course, there's always continental philosophy to complement the Anglosphere's understanding of the world. We'll be taking a look at Niklas Luhmann. Best known for a lot of his systems theory and constructivism. He was also really big on media theory as well. And so if you were to look up the book, The Reality of Mass Media, with a series of lectures and talks he's given over the years, we're going to be reading The Reality of Construction. So I'm going to go put that on screen now.
Well, maybe I was going to say we're going to talk, if we wanted to talk about Konstantin Kisin and the other, like the
I don't have much to really add.
Right.
I think, well, on that regard, Gio, I think that what we're witnessing is the center left or the containment right or whatever you want to call it is one, of course, it has obvious influences or ties to certain various groups in the United States as well as other political actors abroad. But it has, I think, they're trying to find a way, because you can't. I think they have to. They're conceding an obvious point and they're burying the lead, which is that young white men are being systematically dispossessed, disenfranchised economically, and the policy proposals that are being put in place by both this administration, but as well as the left, have only radicalized them further. Because I've met more right-wing critics of Trump than I have left-wing ones, and I know a lot of liberals in my social circle. And I think that it has a lot, but also at the same time, it's like, well, no one's tweets are changing elections. And I'm like, well, no, but it certainly impacts the way that the administration talks, as well as what these media heads say, because these media heads have to be online and their finger on the pulse. Like Kissen and others have to know what's going on. Tucker threw down the gauntlet because I watched the interview that he had with Nick.
Yeah, me too.
It wasn't much of substance. I didn't find it particularly bombastic or controversial. What made it controversial was the fact that Tucker had him on to begin with.
Yeah.
And that, which was particularly interesting because, Nick's been around since the 2016 election, and there's a decade more or less of things that Tucker could have pulled out to maybe question or push him on, and he chose not to. But neither here nor there. You don't have to like the guy, you don't have to love the guy, but I didn't find it of much substance. The controversy was bringing him on. And then, of course, Con Inc., through the Heritage Foundation and virtually everyone else, right before 3 major elections, decided to spend all of their energy and all of their time on broadcast television, on every conservative podcast, and on Twitter. Ben Shapiro did a whole thing. All of our favorite types have been going off on
Charlemagne the God. That was a great...
And the Charlemagne the God one was really entertaining. Because it was Murray Friedman writes about this. You can go look up Murray Friedman in a book he wrote in 1995, or you can listen to what Dimes and I talked about for several hours on that particular issue. And I think that it's important to consider all these things that are going on right now. And they're like, well, we have to concede the point that how do we get these guys back on message or prevent it? For me, it's this is just the prototype of a de-radicalization campaign going on.
Yeah,
that's it.
But it's very funny how the New York Times landed the 7th article about Nick Fuentes.
Yeah.
And at the same time, also propping up Joshua Citarella for the left. Very interesting there. I think John had that point on Twitter. Very interesting. Very interesting. But at the same time, you have people that hate Nick Fuentes in the other parts of the quote-unquote dissident right who are freaking out. And you have the normie establishment conservatives. Who is that debate partner with Yoram Hazony? What's the guy's name? The Indian or the Iranian guy?
His name escapes me.
Or is he Indian?
I don't know.
Yeah, his name escapes, but you know the one. The one he debated. Excuse me. He debated with. He was Yoram Hazony's partner in that one debate against. Who were they debating again?
Gio, I don't remember. I don't even know what you're referencing.
This was on Benjamin Button's show. It was it Yoram Hazony and this other guy, or was it someone else? I forget. But anyways, yeah, it was Zohar Madani. Thank you. No, it's very funny how they're freaking out and they're resorting to the same talking points that they've resorted to for multiple decades now. Sorry, Benjamin Boyce. I'm sorry. I said Benjamin Button. Benjamin Boyce. It was the Benjamin Boyce, our good friend of the show, Benjamin Boyce. Why did I say Benjamin Button? I didn't even like that movie. I thought that movie was stupid. But anyways, it's very funny how they're resorting to the same talking point that has always failed time and time again, which is that you have to hem in your radicals, and this is why we're losing. And it's because people are too bombastic and ho-scaring. But no, the reason that the right in America is quote-unquote losing, even though they have a mandate, is because of various strategic blunders. And it's not because, does Nick Fuentes say things that I don't agree with? Yeah, of course. Does he say things that are bombastic and probably not good optics? Yeah, of course. Same goes for anybody who's a big account or big influencer, right? Even people that hate Nick Fuentes have certain forms of bad optics or whatever. But the point being is that, you never hear this debate on the political left ever. You know, I mean, maybe when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, you had like a little bit of the Ezra Kleins here and there trying to like go to other so-called moderates that aren't really moderates, by the way. They're just presented as such, like Ta-Nehisi Coates. And he's like, well, you know, I don't know, man. Is it kind of in poor taste? The guy just died, right? Like, he just literally got assassinated by one of us. No, that's not my place. That's not my place, to quote Ta-Nehisi Coates. So, yeah, that message, they're losers. They're losers. They'll always be losers. And I think this current iteration of the right wing in North America dying in the next 3 years, both the official conservatism TM when the boomers start to pillow, and also a lot of people that claim to be dissidents, I think, you know, it's just something's not working. Kind of like the Toronto Maple Leafs. You know, doesn't matter. You change out the coaching, you change out the defensive line, you change out the back end, nothing works. And so it will be a fun 3 years. And actually, Randy Shakar has a very good super chat we'll read. And so, yeah, I think like these people, they don't know what time it is, and they don't know why they've continued to fail for multiple decades. And it's just, I don't know, man. Like I said, I saw that thing with Konstantin Kisin, and it's just, what are you going to offer to these people that would make up your constituency, these mostly young men? You offer them nothing. You offer them another browbeating. And, you know,
kind of what it boils down to.
Yeah, and not to say I agree with any of these other big influencers. I think, because God knows, like Fuentes has said things recently that I disagree with when it comes to certain geopolitical issues. But no, I just think that I don't know. It's hard to say. It's almost like I don't want to talk about this, because the more I say, the more I'm going to condemn myself by saying what I actually believe about everything. And I just think that it's a huge waste of time. And I think that you can psychologize all you want, but the reason that younger people gravitate towards characters that are not what Ben Shapiro and Konstantin Kisin and Yoram Hazony and who else? And David French and who was another big one? Dinesh D'Souza. You know, you can see why younger people don't like that.
Tyler Oliveira triggered Dinesh into a sort of an Indian ordeal of civility, because I think it's kind of important to keep in mind, like, Dinesh's big claim to fame, outside of course, you know, kind of canceling Sam Francis and others for going to the first American Renaissance conference like 30 years ago, was that he had wrote a book called The End of Racism. Which has,
I was going to mention that, the end of racism,
which is fundamentally not true. And Dinesh has campaigned, or has been, a conservative activist, a documentary filmmaker, which a lot of them are not good, and has sort of been the advocate of a race-blind, colorblind, you know, quote unquote classical liberal understanding of the world through a slightly conservative lens. The sort of the model minority Bobby Jindal style thing, who I've noticed has been remarkably silent lately. I went looking him up last week, and I have not checked since the Patel stuff. I don't. That's a really great question. What is Bobby?
Who is the darling of 2007 conservatism?
Well, because he was considered. He's only 55. He doesn't really say all that much these days. I'm now literally on his. He's currently now the chair of the Center for Healthy America. So that's about all that he's done. And that he's been really more focused on drug prices and things like that. He's been sort of leading the charge on these issues. But of course, just like him, he's very similar to a lot of like 2007 conservatism, where it's all about like, we can be just like you guys too, and things like that. And he was the governor of Louisiana, and but his Twitter, he's not ever really involved on these issues, which is particularly which just kind of makes him the best kind of guy. He's firmly in the Maha coalition of making America healthy again, and that's. But
No, but like, I mean, I in recent years I've come to realize I'm not in any of these camps. I mean, I don't want to be pinned down with anything. I just think that conservatism TM freaking out over Nick Fuentes is really just I think, are some of them even smart enough to realize that you're not going to win this? You're for whatever terrible statements or whatever that all these influencers have made outside of the mainstream, Nick Fuentes included. Do they realize that they don't, like, people like David French and Dinesh D'Souza don't really have a leg to stand on when it comes to this? And if you're looking at things in terms of the sort of media spectacle like this essay we're going to read, then what are they really going to offer that is, again, a lot of this, as I've said multiple times, a lot of this is to try to rescue the post-Cold War liberal consensus from the fringes coming back once again, or rather the ideological opponents on the left and particularly on the right challenging the global transnational progressive order, however fast or slow you think the progression must be. And on the left, you have a very, I would say, more insidious element of this as well, with this Joshua Citarella nonsense and all these like DSA flunkies coming back into the foreground and being interviewed by him and trying to steer things away from, what does he call it, the irrationalism of the New Agers and all these vibes people, and we gotta like rescue Enlightenment liberalism once again. Well, good job with that. But no, it's obviously like there's a supreme anxiety that all of these people have.
Those who wish to save the sort of post-war, like, or even the post-Cold War, like post-90s liberal model will allow the barbarians to burn down the giant oak door if it means they can say that they live in a liberal society.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really that straightforward. And since no one and none of them are going to talk about the same things that Putnam or Francis or Sobran talked about 30 plus years ago, even now in this whole conversation,
they're allowing leftists to say F slurs now. That's a very big improvement.
Oh, we're them to say F Happy slurs. New Year 2017.
Happy New Year 2017. Something awful. You know, you can
Happy New Year, dirtbag left.
Nick Mullen can say the F slur now, and it's fine.
Nick Mullen, you're back. Wake up, Matt Kreisman. We need you again. Those guys still make a shit ton of hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. They don't do fuck all. As we said last week, we'd be libtards if we were in this for the money. But you know, the labels that you mentioned, the Gio, it really does boil down to a question of network mapping, and can I come up with a label for you if I disagree with you? And if I like you, I will come up with some weird mental gymnastic to like you. So in effort to prevent the bacon from burning, let's go to Niklas Luhmann's little talk here, The Reality of Construction.
For my friends, vibes. For my enemies, the law. That's
for my friends, vibes, and for my enemies, the longhouse. I really like, to me, that's all I want. I want you to deal with DMV style bureaucracy for the rest of your life.
Oh my god.
I want you to live in bureaucratic hell. That's it. So this is The Reality of Construction. This is from The Reality of Mass Media. You can go look up and get the whole book yourself. It's really short. These are just a series of lectures. So we will carry on here. So translated from German into English. So every constructivist theory of cognition will find itself facing the objection that it does not do justice to reality, and this one is no different. In the traditional schema of human capacities, knowledge was distinguished from will, and only the will was acknowledged to have freedom of self-determination, capriciousness. Knowledge, on the other hand, was held to be subject to the resistance of reality and could not simply proceed in an arbitrary way without thereby failing to fulfill its function. However, this division of labor is already flawed inasmuch as the empirical point of view that there is no such thing as arbitrariness or self-determination. Autonomy is only possible in a system which distinguishes itself from the environment, and whilst not being determined by its environment, is certainly irritated by it. But the question as to how we are to understand the resistance with which reality confronts both knowledge and wanting only becomes more urgent. And if we wanted to relinquish the concept of resistance as an indicator of reality, we would have to do without the concept of reality, or breaking with tradition, develop a totally different concept of reality. But that's not really necessary. Hegel himself dealt with this problem in the phenomenology of the spirit in the chapter entitled Sense Certainty. But at that point, he still thought the problem could be solved by the ultra-potency of the mind. All that remained of this deferability, or of distinction, and with the capacity of every construction to be deconstructed. At the same time, however, linguists, for its part, offers an adequate adaptation of the concept of reality, mutatis mutandis, which for a theory of social communication, and therefore for a theory of mass media. Put briefly, it goes like this. Resistance to language can only be put up by language itself, and as a consequence, insofar as language is the point at issue, language itself generates its indicators of reality. That's very true. This is the basic constructivist point that you'll get from international relations theorists as well, that a state is what you make of it, and that your indicator of a quote-unquote system or rules-based systems are totally predicated on your own linguistic interpretation of this. For instance, for those who are channel members, you will listen to Volpez and I have a conversation on the concept of civil society, and that the traditional American or Anglo-American understanding of that term is radically different than what's on the continent. We think of civil society in a lot of ways as a participatory action, whereas civil society and its older, more European definition is literally a mediator or a third party between the state and the individual. And so our indicators for reality is predicated on the language and understanding and how language interacts from other degrees of difference.
It's like imagined communities, right? That's the basic thesis. Yeah.
Anything else?
No, go ahead. Finish the paragraph. I think
this is none other than what we have already formulated using the concept of eigenvalues. The same would be true for the degree of alertness and conscious thought, or for the brain's neurophysiological mode of operation. All operationally closed systems have to generate their indicators of reality at the level of their own operations. They have no other alternative. Resistance can then crop up internally as a problem of consistency, which is interpreted as memory. For example, even though it always manifests in the moment, it has to be newly actualized time and time again.
Well, that's
definitely true.
That's the basic sort of Derridian continental theorist assertion that language actually seems counterintuitive, but if you look at everyday life, you can see this, that language precedes the real, or language precedes communication, or rather, the text precedes communication, which is an extension of language. And one concept cannot be, even concepts that people think of historically that are sort of what people like to think is like violated by reality or mugged by reality, that is like another language construct that has gone into this quote unquote violation of one's pretenses or mental constructions. And so I think, like, especially nowadays, there must be sort of like a grain of salt given to people that are very like in the sort of vulgar definition, like very pragmatic and like, well, you know, you have to show me something to work. But like, what does quote unquote something working really mean? I mean, does it have certain ways that it is replicatable? Does it have a warranted true belief about the nature of reality? Or is it just that on a conceptual level, one concept bashes up against the other, and one mode of language around a certain thing takes precedent over another mode of language, but this is never certain. And I think, and there's always like a chicken and egg there of like, well, is language, is the signifier pointing towards the signified, or really is it just the signifier? And our construction around the signified, around the thing that is real and tangible and physical, operating in the world eminently, is that a product of a long process of the language around this quote unquote concept working in the quote unquote real? That's always like sort of a weird chicken and egg debate. But what is an eigenvalue again, for the people who don't know?
Oh boy, it's explained earlier in one of his essays. The best explanation I'm going to be able to give you is just inherent value, its own value.
Yeah.
For Luhmann, it's I mean, that's more math, but I mean, It's what he's borrowing it off of is from mathematics.
Yeah.
And for him, it's just like these a priori, like kind of just observations in and of itself that we can take a look at when it comes to reality.
The facticity of something, in other words. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So the more presuppositions upon which the operational closure of a system is based, that is, the more improbable from an evolutionary perspective, the more demanding and specific its tests of reality will turn out to be. This applies spectacularly to modern science, and it applies equally to the system of mass media. Keep in mind, Luhmann's a systems theorist, and this is a lot of his essays are really going to look at mass media from that perspective. As we have already identified, the mechanism used here, it consists of opinions about circumstances and events themselves being treated as events. This is how the system allows new blood to flow in. This does, in a way, what is in precise correspondence with the system's code and its mode of operation. In this way, the system itself is able to generate resistance to its own habits. It can produce changes in values. It can give preference to minority opinions that push themselves to the fore, perhaps especially because they appear as spectacular, full of conflict, deviant, and therefore trigger the spiral of silence, as identified by Elizabeth Noel Newman. There are very many different individual possibilities, but they all basically lead to the media generating resistance to themselves. Nick Land also talks about this in Xenosystems as well as in Fanged Noumena, that in, I don't remember which essay in Fanged Noumena specifically, in Xenosystems, it's respectful to cathedral decay, in part because disintermediation is resistance from outside the system's own way to generate new ideas, which is why the left likes to control the dialectic for power. This is why what we were talking about with the whole Konstantin Kisin stuff is kind of important, because that
Fake
is
resistance.
Internal resistance that allows new blood to flow in and allow certain ideas from the outside to be accepted and to be brought up. For us, we have to one, identify our own model of the system, which is what this essay is going to talk about, how we come to our own understanding to indicate what reality is. This allows us to look at tests and to come up with our own baseline understandings. Is it from X? Is it from Y? Is it from Z? How spectacular does this apply to, say, a certain narrative about something? So, for instance, people are more inclined to take if you're already in participatory in the system. Say you are what's his name? If you are a heavy media user, which in regard to, say, in cultivation theory, then you're already going to have a pretty wild understanding of what reality is based upon the media that you consume. And instead, you're not really taking any baseline tests, because what you're looking for instead is, can I test outside narratives or claims, i.e., say, like the Trump administration, right? And how does that coordinate with my own baseline reality? Well, baseline reality would tell me, based on my own observations and my own language, that there is a path of resistance that I can take outside information, and ergo, I now have a way to counter that. When fucking what's his name from Mythbusters said, I reject your reality and substitute it with my own, he's not wrong. Because we all have our own tests to indicate what consensus reality is. Gio and I have a way different standard than, say, the average person who will listen to Midas Media and their TikTok clips about what the president says and why your average stay-at-home libtard mommy is more right, while they go make some really awful dish in front of their kitchen and spend a day in the life with me or get ready with me as we talk about why the Trump administration is wrong about X. And those in turn become ways in which language and internal resistance of the media system predicates a consensus reality on the left that is totally different than our own. You do live in different realities. There is no sort of consensus there. And as in real life, a high trust society is clearly gone, except for small community areas in disparate parts of the United States and other parts of the world. The same thing applies in media. There is no consensus. And that's why sort of the timeline or whatever you follow, ignore the For You tab. What you follow, a friend of mine has a more radical saying, and he says, your Twitter timeline is your ethnostate. You determine what you see, and you need to curate that very finely, because that determines the reality in which you're in and what you're exposed to. And I think that sort of becomes really important as we continue on in this discussion, just because so much of what constitutes truth gets thrown out the window, because now we're looking at different sort of shit tests or particular linguistic indicators to see if we're even talking about the same subject within perhaps the Overton window or a framework in which they would consider acceptable.
Well, what is truth? Your truth, my truth. Never admit anything, deny everything. No, I think like I was, when it comes to that point about go up a little bit.
Yeah.
What does it say here? The system allows new blood to flow in. This does in a way that is in precise correspondence with the system's code, its mode of operation, and the way the system itself is able to generate resistance on its own habits. It can produce changes in values. It can give preferences to minority opinion that pushes themselves to the forefront, perhaps especially because they appear spectacular, full of conflict, deviant, and therefore trigger the spiral of silence. This is how a lot of contemporary mainstream opinion was mainstreamed. There's a specific process of basically harboring your radicals and marching through the institutions and making them appear normal. But also at the beginning, they kind of did this with Chapo Trap House, by the way, where they had these and I remember in the 2010s, I remember us at Thermidor Magazine talking about this, how they sort of do what are we going to do? Like the New Yorker and all these mainstream publications on the left, they're like, what are we going to do with all these rapscallions, What are we going to do about these kids that are rambunctious? I'm waving my finger at them, but I'm not really waving my finger at them because the game is that they're going to be the mainstream and they're going to push further left. That's the game.
It was kind of funny because there was a super chat before we went live asking when is that King of the Hill review dropping. I'll probably drop it next week, but I've been rewatching the series with my fiance because she hasn't seen the sequel reboot season, the revival season or whatever. And we're on the final season. We're finishing it up. But in the final season, Dale's wife she takes this stupid, cutesy human interest story of some kid smuggling a possum into the school. And she totally hijacks it because she wants to advance her career. She started these gay human interest stories. So she says if the boy could, and she does the whole, serious news anchor, tone. And she's just like, if, this boy or if this person was an intruder, this lack of school security could have made this day in Durndal all the more dangerous. And she sends everyone into this media panic, but also into a spiral of silence about well, today is not any more dangerous than yesterday, but because you've now been exposed to this spectacular event or claim, your entire understanding of reality has been changed, and you think that the sky is falling. And I mean, it's done, of course, for laughs, because for the sake
War
of
the Worlds type of deal.
Sure,
yeah.
But it applies here because now all of a sudden your understanding of reality can be shifted by the same sort of spectacle that is going to change baseline reality.
I think when media was more or less monovocal, when there was the world of the television, it was very interesting when you look at media or intellectual discourse in the mass media in the 70s and 80s and so on and so forth until the age of the internet, because it was a way of sort of taking a lot of political and cultural radicalism, whether it be the New Journalists or the Beatniks or any odd activist group. Of course, the way that the political right was treated is to totally subvert it and William F. Buckley everything and kick them in the throat and never air their grievances whatsoever, except for if it's some garish, abominable trash TV spectacle like Jerry Springer interviews the KKK next to the Black Hebrew Israelites. Unless it was that, it was never serious, right? But when it came to radicals of both culture and politics, the global liberal regime was very good at sort of what this article is saying, testing those resistances by allowing certain forms of radicalism into the fold to then push an agenda and then neutralize them, or to push it further into another iteration of itself. And now that you have a fragmentation of the social order through the fragmentation of media and media content, that process isn't working so much anymore. I mean, it's still there, but it's not as efficacious as it once was. And so it's almost like what Mr. Medicare with Daddy Jim said about replacement theory back in the 2010s, about like how video game companies, they'll pretend that these like minority of like blue hair SJW people are the real audience, even though they're working to shaft the real audience. And they're only going to cater to them and say like, okay, we got to listen to our audience, but we're going to selectively curate what that audience response actually is. And lo and behold, there was this kissing cousin relationship between these people pushing video games as a medium in a certain direction and the actual developers and quote unquote games journalists themselves, who all shared the same political worldview and pushed in a certain direction by listening to this vocal minority while selectively destroying or outright banning other vocal minorities within that same fandom or community. And so that is a way of both testing resistances to a underground culture or political subset and neutralizing it, or coming it into the fold and pushing it and pretending that that is the new wave of the future and astroturfing it. And that's how the replacement theory process goes. And it worked. And, it happens a lot. It happens with literature, happens with the work of art. Brad Tromell has an excellent series on Instagram Reels about the like woke 2010s art activism in the contemporary art world. And he's actually got a good video about Dime Square as well. That was pretty good. But, this is the same process, because now the only form of authenticity culturally is oneself in the age of hypermodernity. And so as oneself as an aggrieved, identity group, that becomes the only mode of authenticity that generates value for a work of, in this case, the work of art. But, and the process goes on. And a lot of it comes from selectively excluding certain forms of data and predicating worth to others. It was like what that YouTuber you were sharing said about certain studies in science, for example, being outright banned from really, there's not enough data to conclude certain things because we've banned any studies into certain fields. That's how it works.
That's how it works.
So then how I heckin' love science Redditor can say, well, there's not enough studies done.
The reports are inconclusive.
Yes, we've banned any reporting on it, but it's inconclusive. So anyways, yeah.
So we'll carry on here. A further possibility for testing the mass media's construction of reality lies in empirical social research. Oh, here we go. In contrast to what is widely assumed, the point of this kind of research lies less in the core domain of scientific research, that is, verification and falsification of theories, and more in obtaining data as documentation for decisions in politics and the economy, or perhaps in correcting stereotypes which have developed and become more established through the mass media's news and reporting. For instance, about the demotivation and dropout trend among youth at the end of the 1960s, or about the extent of discontent amongst the population living in the states of former East Germany. The intention of making visible long-term changes, or even just fluctuations, which escape the attention of the mass media should also be acknowledged in this context. Special credit is due here to the Allensbach Institute for Public Opinion Research. One gathers that no German university wanted to take on the burden of continuing this research. But even if one takes into account of the independence of this research with due respect, it can only have an effect if the mass media takes up its findings. Ultimately, then, it is the self-correction of an operationally closed system that is at issue in this instance as well. Here, too, being awarded the reality seal of quality can only happen in a system which first generates inconsistencies in order to construct whatever is to be taken in reality. So just as what Gio was describing, I had shared a video where this I'm surprised it did not get taken down. It was a YouTube video about, I think it was literally called Black Fatigue, or the rise of it.
Yeah.
And it's a really well put together video. But one of the things that he talks about in there is that, of course, we need to have theories or scientific explanations or research that says things, we can't study this. Like, we can't say it's purely genetic. We have to, the system itself and its own closed concept of constant disagreements and resistance has to have another answer to human biodiversity, which would either be systemic barriers, social, access to, program. The video is good. I'll let you look into it. But, there's also the reason why Mr. Watson, who has recently reposed, who died being one of the discoverers of DNA, along with Mr. Crick, that he was canceled late in his life for being a racist, allegedly, simply for acknowledging that there are biological heritable differences between various races and intelligence. The same thing that got Murray in trouble. It's the same thing that's gotten Steve Saylor basically banned from the mainstream, although he's kind of made a comeback online. But it just kind of goes to show, right? Like the self-correction to those things is either to ban them or to come up with an alternative theory that which we can have enough data aggregation to say otherwise. And keep in mind, Steve Saylor famously debated the guy from Freakonomics over abortion and crime rates. And you can go find this debate on The Atlantic. But now it just says authors. They've been depersoned. Which is
that's very funny. Yeah.
I mean, funny, but tragic. So carrying on. Here, too, being... where did I just finish that? Here we go.
Being aware of the reality
can only happen in a system which first generates inconsistencies in order to construct whatever statements reality. This can be corroborated by biological epistemology, semiotics, linguistics, and even sociology. All of these are empirical sciences, not arts. However, at the same time, this radical constructivism does not go very far, being limited by the realization that, at the level of first-order observation, illusion and reality are therefore also reality, and imaginary reality cannot be distinguished from one another. You can't tell the difference.
If you slap expert on something, we all know this. If you slap the label of expert on something, or the label of, anything, then people will be tricked into thinking that this is the objective fact, this is consensus reality, this is how things always were and always will be and is. And it's a very convenient mental trick. And, but then, of course, people debate over the degree of which we can do the skepticism, because it's like, you can't throw out everything. You can't throw out all mainstream forms of science and institutionalism, because then you just have this nihilistic uncertainty. But it's like, well, I don't know. If you look around you, it's sort of like it's already happening. I mean, what's this going to do? So people are already angry. What's going to give you a little more anger? Going to get a little more uncertainty. Like, people are already uncertain about everything. So, it's like, what? This is going to make people a bit more skeptical? Like, who cares? But you know what I mean? And I think then there's also that process of selective nihilism, where certain things aren't real, or certain things are or cast aspersions on, and dealt with a severe form of skepticism, but then other things are taken as gospel. This is always the case over and over again. Selective nihilism. Selective nihilism is in every single institution on the mainstream level as it operates. It's quite fascinating when you actually break down the logic of it. But
yeah. We'll carry on here. Logicians would probably have to say at this level, systems do not have sufficient logical values at their disposal. As we learned, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
Although it is possible to see through this illusion and represent it, it cannot be removed in a way that would mean it no longer occurred. Boy, ain't that the truth. Your facts and logic don't work here. And that even second-order observation has to attribute reality to the observer whom it is observing. It can select him, but not invent him. This is simply because every observation has to work with the distinction of self-reference and other reference, and must fill functional position, that is, other reference with some kind of content. To be put differently, it must use this distinction as its blind spot, for it cannot see, observe, describe the fact that this distinction owes its existence to the paradox of re-entry. We always are aware that our reality... we always have to base it off something else. This is your sort of basic Bayesian analysis, right? Like, we have our own if what, or if yes, if no statements in our brain. And what does that mean? We have blind spots, obviously. We don't know everything. And so we kind of just would take our own illusions or these observed realities from other people, and we take them as gospel. So there's a person who I really like this take of his, where he had said that a lot of people just outsource their moral judgments on other people and just hope that they like them. And I think that that's true.
It's very true.
We do outsource a lot. I know that I do it. I think everyone sort of self-consciously does it. This is what makes the parasocial relationship incredibly dangerous. in a lot of ways, or even the fact that news reporting itself is not a reporting of the facts. It is an article you and I covered like 60 episodes ago, Gio, which was nothing now. I mean, fandom has replaced like news reporting. You don't need a Walter Cronkite to like kind of tell you what's going on in the world, or so and so reports this. Now it's just like, okay, guys, like, spend a day with me as we describe like what's going on in this crazy like rabbit hole conspiracy theory thing and what's the actual facts about it. And then you look in the description, it was like, this presentation was brought to you by so and so, and you're like, well, who's so and so? And then it's like, oh, it's a think tank. Like, that's really kind of crazy. It's fucking wild now, isn't it? But if you don't go that far into checking your priors, and you've outsourced your moral judgment to an expert class, then illusion and reality therefore just become blended into one. Or being able to separate the two gets really difficult.
Like there's whole news organizations like the BBC, or here in Canada the CBC, or even in America, where the quote unquote anti-extremism expert will come in and they'll just like rip off whole cloth from like some Antifa group and they'll preach it as gospel. And it's like, it happens to everything. Even happens as something as mundane as like celebrity reporting or sports or whatever. It's I mean, it's true. I mean, for however I may disagree with a lot of his positions, Conrad Black was exactly correct when he said that journalists were the laziest people on the face of the earth. Like, it's like they'll just take,
so true, King.
Like there's a whole, like, you can see it if you've lurked enough. You can see on the ground, either on the left or the right, or even like just in culture in general, you can see like how certain voices will be curated as the voice of this thing or this scene, and they will break through into the mainstream for a variety of reasons. And they'll sort of like shark womb their way to the top and stab people in the back, or they'll just be outright selected whole cloth as the voice of something. And all the other people that worked tirelessly underneath, they don't get recognized for anything when it's advantageous. And this always happens. This is always a perennial thing. And if you're someone who wants to put anything out there in the world, then it's one of those realities you just have to deal with, because there's no solution to that. I mean, we like to, this is actually something, again, I was talking about with Astro. Like, you would think that in the internet age, where we have the ability to listen to whoever we want to and consume whatever we want to, that these same structures would be complicated. That if I don't like this mainstream thing, then I can go to something else. And you can. But the people at the very top, the influencers at the very top of anything, be it the art world, be it in politics, be it in media, be it in even science, be it in any form of human knowledge, academia especially, the people working in a niche field, there's only certain people that will be elevated to that top of the heap. And all the other people that are actually doing real work, they'll be left behind. Or they'll be like, their work will be stolen from. Like so much shameless slop engagement farmer accounts that will steal tweets from anons. It's like that happens in academia all the time, by the way. You think it's just like an online thing because the internet is still perceived as a Wild West, but that's not the reality. The reality is that in academia, that happens all the time. People steal research, people steal work, people steal all sorts of intellectual work. Happens in the art world as well. But that's just, that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I'm gonna move down to about mass media here. So here too, it is operationally not possible, and this can be known, to include the selectivity of published information and the recursivity of social communication. We react as much as did Horatio, in whom we already quoted. So I have heard, and in part I believe, and do in part believe it. We might well doubt one or two details and might find opportunities to enter into communication with particular opinions. But communication in the social system cannot exclude the framework of tests of consistency and recursivity. If it did, it would lose almost all daily necessary meaning. This really applies to Twitter. The controversy surrounding constructivist theories of cognition becomes much less clear-cut when the complexity of the issues is elucidated and a plurality of distinctions is attached accordingly. Sociology and social theory, in particular, thus gain the advantage of no longer having to rely upon the dogma of classical epistemologies, whether that be Christianity or the classical understanding of the elements or any sort of pantheon of their understanding of the natural world. Instead, they are able to seek out ways and means in which reality is constructed and used as an experience of resistance in every place where autopoietic, operationally closed systems come into being. The same goes for the domain of mass media. And this is particularly important because when you can stand outside of any classical framework for how the world functions, you functionally get to set the table. And there has been, I think, a great degree in which sociology has been the ultimate framework in which all politics is derived from, at least since 1965 onward. I mean, prior to that, I mean, you saw this really with the Lippmann days and the polling, but I mean, this is something where I think that we should have more right-wing sociologists or guys who are sociology people, because I think that it becomes really important for us to understand how systems work, and to know these things better.
Yeah. But well, it's funny because the theory of autopoiesis is very popular in media theory as well. Like, you do have a lot of media ecologies. I remember when back in like I guess you could call it like early like theory cell YouTube. I remember I used to religiously watch Corey Anton, who writes about this. I believe he's actually a communications professor, and he wrote and talked a lot about this, about like media ecologies having this self-sustaining system of generation of itself and its constituent parts in terms of what that media ecology, what its goals are, the players involved, what their shared interests are, what they're trying to do, how they're putting things out into the world. All of these things are reliant upon the self-generation of concepts. It's like what Deleuze and Guattari said, or was it just Deleuze that wrote What is Philosophy? I think it was Deleuze and Guattari. Like
I think it's both of them.
Yeah, but like philosophy is essentially the generation of concepts. You know, a lot of that is built upon prior work, but also there's this self-enclosed nature of an organism that can sustain itself. And media and media ecology and anything you can think of in terms of even sciences or arts all have that same basic element of autogeneration within a milieu, within a closed ecological environment. And so like all the flora and fauna that it inhabits will then restructure itself as this thing changes into another iteration of itself. And so, you know, you see this with meme culture all the time, for example. You know, like what is a Wojak but a previous Rage comic? But within a media ecology, that mutation and evolution happens in an enclosed environment. And then eventually it breaks through into the mainstream, but you know, still like in terms of its potentiality of generation of itself, that is in an enclosed system. And everything operates this way. The cells in our body operate this way. Maybe, you know, I guess like Plato was right about things about how, you know, he had like the city and soul metaphor in the Republic. And no, I mean, also in places like the Timaeus as well. But that's like a basic philosophical observation about reality, is that the cells in our body will even replicate social structures and vice versa. As a city, a well-governed city is replicating of a well-governed body in that Platonic distinction. I know it's like a very butchered and bastardized version of it, like welcome to my philosophy lecture 101. But you know, but it's true. Like there is a harmony to these systems, because if there wasn't, it would be pure grabastic chaos. And but anyways, I'm curious to see where he goes with this. If you have any thoughts about that, Bruce.
No, I think he's gonna break it down here real quick. Here, I've read the first 3 essays of this, but I saw this and I wanted to jump to it because I bought this book as a physical copy because I had been told by a lot of my European friends I have to read Luhmann after I finish my McLuhan kick, which never really goes away. But he says, perhaps the most important outcome of these considerations is that mass media may generate reality, but a reality not subject to consensus. And I think that that's huge. He says, they leave the illusion of a cognitively accessible reality untouched. Radical constructivism is indeed correct with its theory that no cognitive system, whether it operates as a consciousness or a system of communication, can reach its environment operationally. For its own observations, it must keep to the distinctions that it itself has made, and thus to the distinction of self-reference and other reference. And this is not only true for the system of mass media itself, but also for all psychic and social systems that are irritated by it. That includes you. But at the same time, it is also true that no cognitive system can do without assumptions about reality. For if cognition were to be held to cognition's own construction and were traced to the way in which the distinction of self-reference and other reference was handled, this distinction would appear as paradoxical and would collapse. Other reference would be merely a variant of self-reference. Self-reference. The idea of reality secures the autopoiesis of cognitive operations by its own ambivalence. It could either way be an illusion or the reality principle, as psychiatry has it. Either way, what remains important is that in cognitive operations, a system is forced, not all the time, but only in certain instances, to distinguish between the environment as it really is and the environment as it, the system, sees it.
Right. You can never really gauge what people actually think and feel. I mean, there were ways of doing it, but the internet has just essentially sped up our ability to gauge what most people think and feel about something. And even still, most people within a very small, limited bandwidth of a very small media ecology. But when it comes to huge sweeping issues, or huge sweeping spectacles or mass media itself, the vast majority of the maw of public opinion still remains fragmentary. I mean, there's certain things that people will sway on in a certain regards, right? Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But even in terms of how culture is created, it's a lot of people do this like navel gazing, but there's some merit to it about like, how I realized this? I remember I was listening to Timeline Earth and the Spooktacular special, and they had that history podcast on, and they were talking about the first Roman novel, the Golden Ass.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, well, this is like essentially the Roman equivalent of their slop. But I'm thinking like in the ancient world or in mass media of yesteryear, I guess with digital and analog recording we can see, but before that, like, where was the underground culture that has been collapsed in on itself through the sands of time that was totally forgotten about, and that we're sort of left with the remnants of what mass culture was to them, because those were the things that proliferated and then survived? I'm thinking like, was that like did people treat what we know today from the ancient world as like that's just like lowest common denominator slop, and like the real super secret esoteric knowledge or kernel of cultural authenticity was like buried by time? It's like very, it's like you're trying to gauge a mass phenomenon based on the individual experience of people that engage with the form of media, and it just doesn't work. And it's like if you go back farther enough, it's not going to work.
And also like, keep like the other important thing too, right, is our definition for the other. Because what I consider the other is going to be totally different than the other of my political foe or my political opposite, or even Gio's understanding of the world or his idea of the other. Those are going to radically change, entirely dependent on what I consider to be important or what I would think is like my own baseline reality. Mm-hmm. And that is going to play a massive role in how I understand what is being told before me. Like, is that actually something that I think matters? Or is this just something that I think is bullshit? And if you're not willing to acknowledge or play games with like, can I force myself to really step outside my own framework? Then what am I even doing here? I'm just I'm just simply repeating the kind of lines that anyone else would. And you see this struggle for frame, like, I don't want to, like, I mean, frame games, I guess, is the way that you can do that, but like it is it's there, and it's kind of a big one, because now all of a sudden you're gonna realize, like, am I just being a contrarian, or am I like really digging at something here that I don't fundamentally get, but I think is important to discuss? and sometimes it makes you like sound absolutely crazy. And I think this is sort of something that our friend Alaric was getting at in his book Schizo Posting, that in our efforts to try and make sense of the world around us, we inadvertently can come off as like very crazy people, because we're only giving snippets of things that might only be considered true, or maybe this is more bullshit than anything else, and like I'm actually wasting my time. And like you're forced to like confront those things, because now all of a sudden, like maybe everything I have been told growing up is
a lie.
And it's like, well, what the hell do I do with that now? And it's just like, well, you can go absolutely fucking insane, or we can try and make more sense of looking into the facts. And even then, what are those facts? Like, some people might just say a report, and then it's like, well, what does that report cite? And then you realize you're going really deep into the weeds for a better epistemological framework, and thus like reality breaks down because you've created either a paradox for yourself, or you just don't know what's the best way to address the question of what is truth.
Right, but at the same time, I think like you could say like certain things that were popular and mainstream, like a lot of them, you know, prior to our own age was good, because I think like there's this very like Reddit fedora tip edgelord type of thing where it's like when it comes to religion, right? Like, oh, people were brainwashed, man. But like, you can't at the end of the day,
even if you believed that, like the 14th century Roman Catholic Church has nothing on what modern libtards have today.
No, exactly. Like it's like question everything, man. But don't you dare question certain other things, or don't you dare question that, you know, my political project is the only political project.
Even George Floyd?
Yeah, like like I hate old man. Even George Floyd. That was
how dare you say that?
Yeah. That was great. You know what's so funny though? Like again, because memes constantly mutate and change.
Yeah.
It's almost as if like George Floyd now is being, because of the George Droid memes, now is being like seen as a right-wing folk hero. Like it's so crazy. George Floyd, the guy, he wasn't like he had no agency whatsoever. But like, I mean, in terms of like the media spectacle of George Floyd, he was responsible for like a lot of the Black Lives Matter, the rioting, the oppression over speech, and all that stuff. Not him directly, the people that were utilizing.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's very funny how like George Floyd, George Droid, the only people that care about him are people on the political right, but they're treating him as like this folk legend. You know what really sunk it to me? That like now the political right is like the sole entruster of the legacy of George Floyd. The George Droid meme where he's choking out like the Sam, you know, the famous Sam Hyde one?
Yeah.
The woman, right? He's choking out that Reddit robot that calls people Nazis. What's that? The robot called where it's like, that's something a fascist would say. Bot. The GI bot. He's choking out George Droid, choking out the mimetic symbol of the political left, which is this robot that calls people fascists. The mimetic symbol of the political right is Android George Floyd. It's like that to me, like, I know this is slop. I know this is terrible. I know this is like the bad side of internet anthropology, but I just thought that was so crazy because it's like, give it a time and all of the signifiers and antecedents of a phenomenon politically or culturally will radically shift sides. And now George Floyd, the only one that keeps up with the memory of St. Floyd, are like edgelords making AI slop edits of George Droid. And now he's like the symbol of like the edgy right winger choking out the Reddit robot calling us fascists. It's like, man, that was like, I saw that and I was blown away. But you know, no, but the point being is that like, I think like you can speculate all you want on what people really thought and felt prior to the age of mass media. But what he says at the very end here, but in certain instances to distinguish between the environment as it really is and the environment as the system sees it. The system always sees it a certain way. It's only that because we have in the Western world, at least, and in huge swaths of the global South, you have the luxury of mass literacy, that people can now generate different things, and we live in a constant swarm of information and text and cultural output and perseveration and discourse over everything, right? That's been a very limited time in human history that there was mass literacy. The vast majority of human history, people, not that they were, well, yeah, they were essentially told what to think and feel and believe, but we're also told what to think and feel and believe, but in a more sophisticated, iterative form, in a second order sort of way, because now you have the advent of mass literacy. So people can talk about like people were ignorant peasants, people were illiterate, but it's almost like in certain ways, it's almost easier to trick a highly literate population. But the trickery is sophisticated, but it's very easy if you convince themselves of their own cultural acumen and literacy of a given topic. Whereas before you just said, this is what you believe, this is what we believe, this is what we are, our people, our car, this is what we are, this is who what we stand for, this is our principles, our values, our beliefs. But in some ways, it's even more easier. It's easier to trick people in a highly culturally literate and in terms of a literate society. In some ways, it's easier through mass media to trick them of different beliefs if you appeal to their sensibility of literacy itself and their own sense of sophistication and so on and so forth. Because why do people believe things that are seemingly absurd, even though they have a level of literacy and intelligence? Whereas like some medieval peasant would have some form of animal magnetism or folk wisdom that they've cultivated over millennia to guide them in life. Even though like us, we're like totally denatured in a certain regard. You know what I mean? Like we don't have that same level of métier knowledge, to quote James C. Scott, or folk wisdom or whatever. Like that seems like anathema and alien to us. But we have our pretension towards literacy and intelligence. And so it's like, how do you want to trick people? Appeal to that, So in some ways, it's almost easier, even though the mechanism of propaganda and mainstream opinion making and the sort of the corralling of opinion in the mainstream, that has a very sophisticated mechanism going on there. But when it's fully deployed, it's very easy. It's like, that's just the way we do things. That's the expert opinion, so on and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that becomes one of the most important things to consider is that we are living in a very unique age with respects to not just like mass media in general, but just also how quickly and how easy it has been to deracinate what I would consider to feel okay, or what is okay. Like we do not live in those like broadly held assumptions that everyone took for granted. And that has a lot to do with the fact that like now it's easier than ever to just like call something not true, or how quickly we've changed our opinion. Like for instance, everyone's opinion on diets, right? Like eggs are bad for you all of a sudden, or this is really good for you. And it's just like, well, okay, that's really cool, but what's the actual truth? And it's like, well, we have to go back in time. It's the same thing with like people kind of figuring out that like, actually, hey, there's a lot of things in the Mediterranean diet that are totally good to have, or that are good for us. And we don't perhaps consider that we did those things for a reason, and not because they were, trendy or really cool or anything like that. It was just more of that this was the way that the world worked. This was the wisdom that was passed down to us, and that was good. And we've basically, in a long way, we've kind of just thrown out tradition, and not just like in the like, oh, I'm so trad sense, but in the we've decided to divorce ourselves by creating new realities and new consensus by simply saying, well, hey, these new dogmas or these new sociological findings make it a lot more easier for me to say, oh, well, maybe this is the way that the world really works. Mm-hmm. And I should abandon all prior held beliefs, and I'm going to resent those who raised me right. And I think this is what's really predicated the whole, like, I hate my dad thing into being such an effective political kind of framework in which people now find themselves in on the left.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like now all of a sudden it's like, well, did you know something says that you're wrong and you're evil and you're uninformed? And it's just like, well, who's telling you that? And it's just like, this is where you get that whole like Jon Stewart complex, where it's just like, oh, cool. So this
you
person
don't own anything.
You don't. Yeah, I get my news from Jon Stewart, and it's just like, well, this was like the problem for every like conservative dad who probably liked Dick Cheney or wrote a check to the Republicans, and it's just like, well, we don't have anything like that. I mean, you kind of did, but not with that kind of reach,
Yeah. No,
it's and that to me is like the really like big thing to consider in all of this is like now I don't even need to have studies. Like now we're even worse than that. Like I don't need to generate anything. Now I just have someone to tell me that like this is how things have always been, and we just didn't know about it because we were so uninformed and ignorant. And it's just like, well, were we? Because like now we just believe headlines.
Yeah.
We don't even read fucking articles anymore. We just read headlines.
That was like the counter signal meme. My source says that you're wrong and evil, but then another guy, the right winger, says, yeah, but my source says that that's wrong. Oh, but that's a biased source.
Yeah.
It's like, well, like everything's a biased source.
Well, that's like the big thing out of this whole media consensus thing is like now all of a sudden reality is determined totally on who can like challenge the status quo the most.
Yeah. No, there's that other like reality as well of like where you sort of like challenge things to the point where your brain falls out of your head. And then you have like Candace Owens saying that like Bridget Macron is like a man or whatever. Like it's or the moon landing didn't happen or I don't know about that. But well, no, I shouldn't say that. I believe the moon landing happened. But no, but then there's also like that counterpoint of like who can like be an edgy contrarian the most. And then eventually you edgy contrarian yourself all the way back to being a foil for whatever psyop is currently going on in the mainstream media. And it's like the cycle of samsara, of slopsara never ends.
Absolutely.
And it's just, and it's just, so there's that other side as well of like, when you question things to such an extent that your brain falls out of your head. Like I noticed a lot of new age people had that as well back in the day. I remember like they had like, their mind, even one of my professors said this, their mind is so open, the brain falls out. So there is like a risk of like questioning everything to like being like this terminal edgelord to the point where, you'll even like fight with other fellow truth questioners to the point where it's like, it's not really about the mission of what is true and what is just and what is real. It's really more about like, oh, I'm defending myself or I'm defending my e-daddy in this media market. And I have to go after this person that hates my e-daddy. And it's just, and nothing ever gets done. And it's like, and this happens all the time. It happens. And then it's very easy for any sort of mainstream body of power knowledge to then come in and constitute or to utilize you to test those resistances or to just demonize you. And it's, and the cycle goes on. And then a lot of people that don't realize that they're just wasting time, they have other interests besides this quote unquote thing called the truth.
Yeah.
And, so, yeah, let's move on.
Well, I'll read this last section and then we'll see how we're doing okay on time. We can keep going.
Yeah.
So, and what would be the exceptions? It seems to be the case here in modern society, which secures its knowledge of the world through mass media. A change has come about. According to the classical model of the rationality of truth with its logical and ontological premises, it was only a question of ensuring that errors were avoided. The reasons for error played either no role at all or only a secondary one, namely when one wanted to avoid repeating the same error. It was assumed in principle that error could be corrected at the point where it occurred, and that the method recommended for this was specifically intended to neutralize the influence of individual characteristics of systems seeking cognition. Traditional like church councils or if you want to even be more sociological, just like hanging, like a criminal. Provision for correcting errors was built into communication. For the modern world after Descartes and after Freud, this is no longer enough. or after Descartes, sorry. The cognitive system that we now call subject might infer self-confirmation from every cognition, be it true or untrue, because in the end, this is how it confirms its own autopoiesis. But it is just this which no longer leads directly to confirmation of the reality value of self-knowledge. Self-correcting mechanisms are complemented by self-accusing mechanisms. This happens with concepts such as projection or the highly fragile distinction of normal and pathological. Boy, ain't that the truth in the therapeutic state. Expanding the suspicion of motives in this way tendentially leads to a self-psychiatrization of communication. As has long been recognized, this includes the communication of psychiatrists or other therapists who are at risk to succumbing to their own professional deformation. The distinction of normal and pathological does not clearly say where the boundaries are to be drawn. The fragility of this distinction, its capacity to be transferred into ever new terrains of suspicion, exactly reflects the functionally necessary ambivalence of the understanding of reality. Psychiatry itself cannot do without a reality somehow guaranteed by the world, i.e., the DSM-4 or DSM-5. Otherwise, it would have to cease its own activity. In other words, it cannot really accept that it is simply pursuing its own projections with the assumption of pathologies. At the very least, it will have to accept that there are more or less painful pathologies. Basically, a long-winded way of saying, in the therapeutic state, we can now psychologize everything.
Yeah.
And in an age of mass media, we can infect you with sort of mimetic ideas that can either terminate traditional norms or the ways in which we would correct ourselves, because now we don't have the fine line between what's true or what's pathological. And if I can now rid you of, say, a certain pathology, i.e. gay race communism, then all of a sudden that's normalized. And it's the things that have historically been true all these years for centuries and millennia. Now, all of a sudden, that's problematic. That's bad science.
It's appeal to fake normalcy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, then if they can't do any like historical argument of like, well, it was always like this, you just didn't realize it, they'll do the whole like
the gaslight gatekeep girl boss.
The past was irrelevant and therefore you have to conform to
the past was always fake and gay.
Yeah, and so therefore you have to conform to normative conditions of the now, and it's always an eternal now, and if you're not conforming to it, then you're like a bad person. And I think like the moralistic argument that is not based on anything, like it's based on a hill of sand, that is what's most effective to people. This thing of like, I want to be a good person. And I think like that's something that
the moral therapeutic deism of our time.
Exactly. But that was a reality that was very long standing. Like I remember Norman Mailer talking about this on Firing Line, where he wrote that book about what was his name? Gilmore, the criminal that they executed. And he said, what's fascinating is that in America, everyone in this whole thing, people that wanted to condemn him and people that wanted to save him, and he himself didn't want to be saved, he wanted to be executed. Everybody had this pathological desire to be morally correct or to be a good person, to where he goes, I could imagine, and this is a fake example he said, but I could imagine like a clerk that made some minor rounding error on a piece of paperwork that stayed up late at night, that in the office to like correct it, like in the middle of the night, he drove back to the office to correct it. Like it seems that like everyone had this fixation on, did I do the right thing? Right? Am I a good person? And when you examine the psychology of it, but when you examine like the basis of what that thing called being a good hacking good person actually is, what basis is there of that? Nothing. Like what? You treated people with a form of equality and deference, but that's not true, because to do that is to treat people very unequally. People that believe differently than what the mainstream tells you to believe. So it's always like a self-enclosing Gordian knot of moral decision making that a lot of ways has just been totally propagandized to most people. What the notion of what people think is good or moral or just, again, is just a product of power knowledge. And if you want to say that, well, that's like French theory nihilism, then so be it. But it's not going to really challenge how the creation of a moral construct has had. You know, you can do a sort of total truth nuke, reason, logic your way out of anything. But the reality is that the vast majority of people, what they feel to be morally good or just or right or truthful, is again a product of enculturation and propaganda. And sometimes it's good. Sometimes there is a form of a historical or metaphysical truth. But oftentimes, whatever is being told to you, especially nowadays, is just it's bullshit. So, you know, and sometimes bullshit is useful. You know, sometimes in order to live what approximates a normative life, you know, you have to tolerate a degree of bullshit. But people are so willing to destroy each other socially over it, which is really, to me, I think, like, I could never understand that in some ways. I can't understand why. I mean, I can understand having moral conviction, but I think, you know, when you're someone who lives on the outs of popular constructs of what is morality or what is politically truthful or what is politically virtuous, when you sort of live on the outs of that schema for so long, you can sort of like look at it in a different way. You can say like, okay, why do people act like that? Why are people so invested in this thing that they know maybe is just nonsense, but nevertheless you have to do it to pursue this social structure game? And there's a lot of different reasons as to why people operate as these existential ciphers for mainstream opinion making. And when you're on the outs of that, you know, you can say, well, I can't understand it, but maybe I don't understand it because, you know, whatever.
Well, I think also it has a lot to do with our understanding, perhaps, of what became reality, or what our understanding of reality is functionally from a different time of media consumption. You know, like I'm not on TikTok, and I'm not on like Instagram, so I don't get like reels or things like that. So my understanding of that world is way different, just simply because I'm not on it. But like I've noticed how because like my girlfriend's on it, and I can see what an amazingly powerful fucking tool that is for psyops.
Oh yeah,
because like I've noticed lately, like for instance, you know, we're planning shit out and talking about things and whatnot, and it's so quick and easy for an opinion to change, or what about this, what about this, what about that, and it's just like really simple inclusions or things that you clearly saw online. Like I was like, oh well, that would be a fun, like I'll scroll through and I'll watch things, and things like wedding shit will pop up, and I'm like, oh, that would be fun to have, or wouldn't that be nice? Da, 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 da. And then I find myself in this environment where I'm like, well, now I'm hearing all these like persons like when you go to like a cooking blog, and like the first like 20 paragraphs or some fucking sob story or like deep personal family history. It's the same thing there, where it's like, well, I came to like learn about this one thing, or this how you did this thing, but now all of a sudden I'm getting this whole shtick about like divorce, or who's cheating, and da 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 da. And it's like, well, isn't this like kind of being inherently like anti-marriage, or like trying to like break down one's conception of what might be good? And it's the same thing too with like the whole question of natalism. Like I think more and more people now are talking about, at least on these platforms, about like all the scary shit that can happen when you're trying to have a kid and what's terrible to your body. And it's just like, well, if I were to like look up one particular thing, and then all of a sudden this is like a very statistically unlikely thing to happen to the average pregnant woman, am I just gonna get like, is this just psyoping me? Or is it, more importantly, is it just psyoping women? Well, gee, Bob, it sure looks that way. And I think that sort of becomes another strain of it too. Is just that like, well, I'm not on these platforms. Ergo, like, I don't know how your media consensus is being formed. Or are you just basing it off of the consensus of a stranger and hoping that it's somehow accurate and true? And if that's the case, like, then what am I doing here? You know?
Yeah. But
I don't know. Like the reason why, and again, like, what am I doing here? I'm being like a really like kind of snarky, dare I say, kind of just like navel gazing asshole, because I find the whole subject of media analysis and media study to be really important and interesting, because I want to know how the system works. because I'm an outsider to the system. I don't work in mainstream media. I don't work for CNN. I don't work for Axios or whatever. And so I gaze at it because I want to know how this works. The same way I find sociology so interesting. I'm not a sociologist, but I want to know more about it because clearly I live in a world where if I don't know it, I'm being played and I don't even realize it. In the same way that we don't know the origins of memes sometimes. Like I don't know where this particular phrase comes from. And I think that that's really scary because I might inadvertently be, repeating a talking point that came from a particularly bad actor or a foreign nation. It could be Ukrainian, it could be Russian, it could be Israeli. And it's like, well, if I don't know where that's from, like, am I not just subjecting myself?
Could be the Chi-Coms.
Exactly. Right. I could be subjecting myself to a lens of analysis that is not good, accurate, and I'm doing the bidding of an enemy power. And I'm like, that's really concerning. Because now my entire schema for how I understand reality is totally fucked because I'm now just repeating lines from an enemy. And it's like that and there's no verification for that. And this is where you get the technocrats supporting things like digital IDs. Like, well, we can verify that reality for you. We can tell you who's a citizen and who isn't. And it's like, yeah, but now we're just engaging in basic surveillance capitalism. And it's like, I don't think that that's particularly healthy either because my phone already listens to half the shit I already say, despite me changing my privacy settings.
Yeah, but to be fair, the American government pulls that type of stuff
I'm not
throughout the globe. Yeah, so,
my pig in Slaughterhouse. I already know this.
No, but that's what I mean. I think, I've always questioned this thing. I mean, obviously, foreign subversion happens, but I think, it's kind of in a globalized world, even individually, it's not even just in terms of whole nations and their propaganda spheres, but even in terms of individual influencers being paid off or them wanting you to go in a certain direction. It's I know that it's a cynical view of humanity to be okay, the vast majority of people are being easily led, and do not people have the sort of capacity for discernment? But the reality is that a lot of people either
most don't
because either their lives are too regimented and focused on other things, or they don't have the time to research everything, or they don't really, some of them don't have the capacity, or a lot of people are very apt at, and nobody here is immune to this, by the way. People are very apt at having their emotions played off against themselves, or having their inner desires. I know I'm psychologizing right now. I know I had this whole rant about constant kissing, but okay, but for argument's sake, people have a lot of psychological desires and needs that need to be met. A lot of people just simply, maybe a lot of people are too dumb, but there's a vast array of reasons as to why most people will go along to get along, or will go along with whatever is presented to them, because they, even in the age of mass internet usage and data storage and collection and so on and so forth, people still don't have the ability to really go behind what is being presented to them. Because and the unfortunate reality is that a lot of people that claim to be people that do that job for you, they also have agendas, and some of them are also being paid off, and some of them are also leading you towards a rabbit hole that goes nowhere. And so this great chain of media being goes on forever, because even people that are in the business of telling you what the truth really is, a lot of those people have,
and then when
keeps going on forever, you know what I mean?
And then when an event happens. And for instance, for a lot of reasons, I really do think that the Nothing Ever Happens meme is a form of McLuhan-esque auto amputation. That now all of a sudden I'm engaging in a world where I am forced to, understand, okay, the world is changing. What does that mean? And it's just it can completely break your brain. Dimes and Morgoth had said this earlier. Most of us are fucking terrible at making predictions. We're fucking bad at it. But it doesn't really matter because now all of a sudden, Like I can successfully get people to ignore it because something else can happen in 5 seconds where, oh, cool, I'm safe. I don't have to get called out for my bullshit. We're all bad at this. I have terrible takes from 5 years ago. I guarantee you that if you were to go through my old tweets, there's gonna be shit you really don't like, or there were takes that aged like garbage. And it's like I know that, and that's okay. Like we can grow up and move on, but we have to also acknowledge like, hey, no one's perfect, or no one's going to be right. My sense of reality is going to be completely changed based off new information. But like 5 years ago, what was a lot of people's focus on? Well, we were focused on like COVID and the WEF and Klaus Schwab and George and Alex Soros. And it's like, well, that never really went away. We just kind of like got maybe like distracted, or we focus now on other more pressing issues like BLM, or the like borders getting opened up in both the United Kingdom and the United States under Biden. And it's just like, well, what the hell do we do now? Like, does this other stuff even matter anymore? And it's like, well, yeah, it does still, but like now we can't really talk about it because we've got other stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
And we move on to the next thing. And we're also in a discursive media environment that doesn't encourage you to stay long form on a particular issue unless you're going to be so dedicated to it that it practically becomes your full-time job. Like, you know, we don't focus on one thing here. I mean, we have some recurring motifs or themes, like media analysis being one of them, but like this is not a show about X, you know. We don't talk about one thing and one thing only. We probably be really good at covering maybe like one or two things, but we don't. We like the variety of it. But it's the same thing with like on the timeline. We can't stay focused on one thing because what is the timeline for other than complete aggregation of the news, of opinions, of discourse generation? And that won't go anywhere because we really only want you to stay in this one place and this one time. And your model, when things do happen, say bombing Iran or COVID or October 7th, it can throw your entire schema of reality off. And now all of a sudden, the world as you know it, that model functionally no longer works. And either you have to adapt to it and have proper discernment, or like a lot of people, it fucking breaks you. And, you know, people can call out or whatever, like, oh, you fell off. And it's just like, well, yeah, they didn't update their model. Their priors didn't work in correspondence to the changing of events.
Some people generally do fall off, but then some people, it's like falling off is like, I'm no longer a part of this media market, or I am no longer playing a game, or I am no longer going to give you what you want. Like it's just
or I got bought off.
Yeah, or
I found a job.
Exactly. Or like you know, I changed my approach to things and I care about things more in this side of things than I do that. And it's like it's jarring to people. And yeah, I'll say no more. So, you know, it's that's how it works. But what are you gonna do? Like,
you gonna cry?
It's really depressing. No, it is depressing. You know, it's depressing. You try to change things and then you try to do things a bit better, and then people don't want that. They just want, you know, a certain thing that you're known for, and that's it. And it's tragic, man.
Give us my yummy, yummy slop.
I remember when Jenny Lane talked about this when he wrote Cherry Pie, you know, the band Warrant.
Yes.
He you know, he drank
the one song that they're known for forever.
Yeah. The thing is, like, Jenny Lane was actually a very good songwriter. Like, he became a studio musician, and he wrote songs for like Madonna and like very mainstream figures, right? But he's like, you know, we had this whole album and we called it Uncle Tom's Cabin, but then my producer's like, okay, we need a hit. We need something that's like Elevator Love, or I think that was the example. And he goes, okay, so he like quickly jotted down this song. And he's like, I didn't think of anything about it, right? Because over the weekend, the record company, they sat with it, they lived with it, and then by the time I woke up on Monday, the single was Cherry Pie, the song was, you know, the album was called Cherry Pie. I'm in fucking cherry pie eating contests, and he's like, I could literally redact myself over this song. And it's like, you know, and so all of his other accomplishments just like swept under the rug for like this one thing. It's terrible being like a one-hit wonder. and I feel like a lot of people are like that. So,
like, do you embrace it or does it destroy you?
Yeah.
Like, the only person I think who's a one-hit wonder that has managed to, I guess, live it up, or I don't know, maybe just make do or make peace with it, is probably Rick Astley.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Don McLean, I guess, because everyone and their mother knows fucking American Pie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing too. I mean, it also applies here. Like, imagine you have a great second career, or like a renaissance of your own work, and it's like, hey, you're that guy from 5 years ago who like shit his pants or whatever, or in Matt Forney's case when arguing with Thomas Massey, it's like, hey, you're the sex tourism guy from 10 years ago.
Yeah, it is like
because now, like, all of a sudden you still, like, there's still labels and schema models that people are going to use to functionally just ignore your take, even though you've changed or you've become a radically different person on the internet. And it's just like, well, now what do I do? And it's like, well, clearly nothing, because you don't have an opportunity to change, because everyone's like mental model for you is still like 10 years ago or whatever. And I think that kind of brings maybe like well, we can wrap up the essay here for now. I'm enjoying this book so far. It's forced me to become more of a theory cell in my old for my old college days, but I really do appreciate it in the sense that, like, this is where things are going. That, like, we're still the fight over what is real has everybody kind of fumbling around. A lot of people, it's kind of funny where we're all debating what is truth, and that question has been answered for a lot of people, and a lot of people find that answer quite comforting, or maybe they just choose to reject it at all. And in the midst of all of this, I feel like for quite a few people, you're a lot of individuals I know are more or less like Pilate, and they're staring in the face of truth and they don't even realize it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, that's a lot of people. But then again, I think, like, it's hard to say, because there's a lot of temptation in this world to, like, sell out, or speak against what you've once held to be sacred, and and also, like, it's very hard to determine what people actually want if you've been in the game for a long time. You're on the car, you're on the game. I gotta stop doing those T77isms, but no, but, like, yeah, it's very hard to determine, because when you try to do something that you find to be good and meaningful, and people don't automatically bite, like, it sucks, and you don't want to, like, become a self-parody. Yeah, and let's talk about something else.
Yeah, no one does. Well, because we're getting a little too introspective.
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, hell, I don't know what people want from me, and I've been doing this. I mean, I haven't been doing this nearly as long as you have, but it's just like, I've been doing this now for 5 years, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And what the hell do you people want? And because I kind of understand, to at least a very small, minute degree, why people, or why larger creators who don't do politics stuff at all, they still burn out over anything, because it's just like, that is an incredibly strange thing where even if the subjectivity is implied, cough cough, Joseph Anderson, whatever, but like you're left kind of reeling in a world that it almost takes you're now the source of truth. You're the reality / consensus maker. And to riff off of, like, video essay critique drama stuff, it's just like, isn't it wild that some people kind of take issue with the claim that, like, oh, I'm not really anything, I'm nothing. And it's just like, well, I don't believe that for a second that you think that at all. If anything, it's just going to simply be you claiming that, oh, I don't have to worry about that. Everything's fine on my end. And it's just like, well, aren't you also a person who was very happy to claim that your video on, say, I don't know, like for instance, Joseph Anderson's like Fallout 4 review will be seen by more people and may have been taken more seriously by the people at Bethesda than any other person's like life work? Like even in my small ass YouTube channel, I have a video with Sandbatch from several years ago that has more views on the Monroe Doctrine and the history of that doctrine than most people who have made their entire academic career on that particular issue.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
But also kind of horrifying that like
kind of scary,
some
actually.
jackass like me, if someone were to look up like the Monroe Doctrine, I'll be on there. And I'm like, on one hand, I'm kind of proud of that, but at the same time, it's like that.
Yeah, but you know what? Fuck them. Fuck academia. You have more of a right than those pieces of shit.
That could be the attitude one takes, yeah.
Yeah. Or it could be like I'm
a nobody, and like we've done this, but then you also have the I don't want to. You also have the consequences of what that might be. It's like, well, did you get it right? Did you get it wrong?
Right.
Did you go back and do it?
Yeah.
And I don't think that a lot of people consider those things.
Sounds like the academics should have learned to do video editing.
Me, who does no fucking video editing at all whatsoever.
Sounds like you should have learned how to podcast.
Sounds like you should learn. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, Professor, you didn't make a YouTube channel. And oh, you did? You didn't use SEO. You didn't. I would be like that professor who's just like, you know what, class? I thought you all cheated, so as punishment, I'm not going to fail you. No. Instead, I'm going to Bud Dwyer all over this classroom. It's just like, Professor, no! And then it's too late. It's just like, I don't know.
You can't put that on YouTube.
You can't put that on YouTube. The days of cheating are over. And it's just like, oh, Doc, you were wrong.
That's my favorite Bud Dwyer meme. You can't put that on television. But he did.
So, and watch me do the same, but brother.
Yeah. No, but what I mean, it's like very hard. Like I released this painting video yesterday, and it's like, fuck, man. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just, I feel like, yeah, I have the same thing. What do you people want? You know, just tell me. It's just, I'll do it.
Waiting for something cool to happen, I guess.
No, but it's just, I don't want to be like, you know, producing hot takes forever. I mean, everything's a hot take, but
man, if I'm doing this when I'm 40, I have done something terribly wrong with my life.
No, maybe not like this specifically, but like,
well, I don't know. If I become like a hot take machine,
yeah,
I hope. Well, one, I hope that I haven't, but if I am, like, I really do hope that, I hope I'm getting paid big fucking money for it, and I'm not begging.
Oh yeah, of course.
At like 40, you know, like that's the. I think sort of.
No, all of us can work at the Blaze. But
yeah, I'm not one of them.
Yeah, so well, you are in Frontier Magazine though. To be honest, though.
Well, I mean,
you're not getting paid for that though. You're not.
Oh, I did.
Wait, are you getting paid for that?
I got paid for the first one I did. Yes.
Son of a bitch! Fuck. What was the essay on?
The fucking video game essay I wrote on they paid me for it.
Oh jeez. Oh fuck.
Well, I was very glad that they were, you know, I didn't, you know,
no one DMs
do it for free, Channy, you know, like I didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I got fucking money out of it, like, you know,
oh man.
But yeah, apparently that. So disclosure, yeah. The only I've written for a few places where I didn't get paid. Like
I should have built up my art career online first and then revealed myself as a chud. I made a totally wrong mistake. I should have done one then the other.
You should have been like what's Mammoth or whatever, where he comes out as a like gay conservative years later after this like prolific career, and it's like, actually I like Thomas Sowell, and everyone wants to cancel him. It's like, but I've already got my money. I don't know. Maybe that's the way to have done it. Who knows?
Yeah, that should have been. Yeah, exactly. See, I should have done that first, and then, you know, because like being like in like the political, like dissident media market sphere, and then trying to do something else is kind of a bit more of a slog than like starting off with something
yeah.
else.
Like
there
are times where I'm like, man, I really should have stuck to what I wanted to do
video
originally.
game essays. Yeah.
I should have just tried my best to make fucking
Yeah.
video game essays and go
Exactly.
from there. I would have been happier. Would I have been? No fucking idea. You know, like
Maybe.
God only knows.
You would have dealt. No, I shouldn't say that. That you would have dealt with less psychos, but like.
No, I would have dealt with more psychos.
More psychos, yeah.
But like, I don't know. I probably would have made more money real quick. You know, like.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But who knows? That dream is dead. I mean, people have paid me to review stuff. Like, I will review the Ace Combat thing, but it's just like I also know that because of my channel, it's like, oh, that'll get like 1,000, 2,000, maybe 3,000 views.
Yeah.
5,000. You know, if I'm lucky with like the podcast stuff that I have. So I was like, yeah, we'll see. But I'm also like,
I prayed.
I'm also a realist.
Views. Yeah, I pray to get 5,000. I'm not like certain other people that where 5,000 views comes naturally to them. But what are you gonna do, man? I don't know. Maybe I should just force people to like you. At the end of the day,
well, I noticed.
I
noticed that on my the YouTube.
I just say fuck you. You're getting like art videos, and if you want political slop, go elsewhere. Go to other streams. You know, go to other videos. I'm done with you. This is what I'm doing.
Get your slop elsewhere.
Yeah, get your slop elsewhere. Fuck you. We're gonna talk about Heidegger. Okay.
We're gonna talk about
We're gonna talk about Norman Mailer. We're gonna talk about Edvard Munch. We're gonna talk about the Group of Seven. And if you want, like, you know, this is what Trump did today, then it's like, okay, fine. You know, see yourself.
This is why we spend the first like 30 minutes doing the news.
All art is political. Fuck off. I know that. It's true.
You need to know that, chud. All art is political.
I remember
personal is political, chud.
Yeah. Gio
I need that in the Alan voice from Smiling Friends. The personal is political, Alan.
Who was it? Isaac name. Younger? No, it was Marty that had that tweet that blew up. It's like the person he's like, all art is political, people, when the politics don't agree with me.
Oh yeah, all politics is political when the art all art is political, nibbles when the art is right wing.
Yeah.
And it's like so true.
Yeah.
Well, do we
No, maybe if I wanted to sell my soul, I'd become a drama channel, but that's Owen's
Zaleski. But I think you are a man that longs to fucking be Kino Casino. I think you want that third chair.
Oh my god!
I think you're waiting for PPP to have a heart attack so you can just take his fucking job.
Yeah, take his job. Yeah, like guide Andy Worski by the hand.
Just be like, it's okay, Andy. Like, I got you now.
Yeah.
I'm an old head too.
But I could like cover niche drama that's not on their radar. You know what I mean? Like that's outside of the sector. That's like a totally different sector of drama. I could cover like, you know, I could go into all sorts of different things. But
you could. Yeah, the world is your oyster. It is a matter of what the hell you want to do with it.
Yeah, no, but I couldn't do that, man. I couldn't do that. I don't have the stomach for that.
Couldn't do that, man.
Oh.
I've been there before, man. Can't throw me back in the joint. Can't go back.
Hasn't enough drugs to fit. I don't think they do drugs. I mean, fat guys and drugs don't mix, man.
Yeah, just ask Chris Farley.
Ask Chris Farley, yeah.
Too soon? I don't know.
No, it's been like 20 years.
Yeah, 30.
Yeah, 30 years.
I've been.
Jesus, you're making a killing on super chats tonight.
Oh, am I? I have not been paying. I don't pay attention to chat. Never give the audience what they want. That's what I've been told. Never give the audience what they want. Don't read the comments.
It's my problem.
This is what I've been told. I don't know how true that is. I may have.
Yeah.
I may be just totally full of shit, and I've been taking really bad advice for years now.
Yeah.
But who knows?
I don't know what happened, man. Like last week, it didn't go so well.
I think you also have to consider last week was the first of the month.
Oh,
you have to consider us wages, Gio.
That's true.
And where we get our money from. Gio.
How is that significant?
Rent is due, Gio. The mortgage is due, Gio.
Yeah, but that can't have any bearing. Maybe, really?
Do you want to consider who our audience is?
Yeah, but I'm sure like
please check the demographics of your YouTube channel. It is going to be primarily guys ages 22 to 35 who have little to no disposable income because this economy is fucked. And so when they choose to give what their Chick-fil-A money, their Starbucks money, their Zarbee's money, those guys have made a decision to vote with their wallet that you are worth the time.
I gotta find a way to appeal to women more.
Yeah,
maybe the art videos will do that. Maybe they'll do. We'll see.
We want that lady money.
Yeah. I wonder. No, it's like yeah. You got to try like figure out like what
women want.
What can attract women and like older Gen Xers and Boomers? What can do this? Like what kind of content could do this? Well, maybe I'm gonna start interviewing a lot of those alt-lit people, so maybe that'll work. I wanted to interview, what's her name? John Didion, Sarah Fletcher. I'm not big enough to interview Sign Swoon, but like, maybe that'll work. I'll have more Foids on the podcast.
That's an option. I don't know. Speaking of people and podcasts to call out, I think that it is important for us in this moment of introspection to always realize when we have good and bad actors in the sector. And today I feel a very special need to call out our friend Gabe Underground, your wife's spiritual son or your spiritual wife's son, because he decided that it would be funny to give me some sort of call out because I don't watch the videos that he does with Tukey's Mag on Arcanum. I have several hundred hours in Arcanum. I'm not going to listen to a kid who has never played this game tell me about Arcanum. I would listen to David, but not Gabe. And for a guy who
he hasn't played it
because he's an asshole.
No, but do you know that he hasn't played it?
No, I'm just being an asshole. I'm doing a bit because he did a bit at the beginning of his show today, calling me out. That's the only reason why I'm doing this. You do it for the bit, Gio, the bit.
Just keep doing the bit. Nothing matters more than the bit.
It's the only thing that matters. Keep doing the bit. Anyways, sorry, Gabe. I will not listen to your gamer-infused humiliation ritual. I'm older than you. I have better insurance than you, and I will kick your ass. I know what you look like.
I'm big.
Like,
you're Gabe. Little. You're small. You remember Matilda?
Yeah.
Did you know Matilda? Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh man, I can't believe it. It's sort of like, it's like when your kid's acting up in public, and then another parent comes along and tries to discipline them. It's like you feel weird. It's like I feel weird trying to discipline Gabe, my kid. I don't know. I feel weird about that.
You feel called out.
I feel called out as a parent, as a neglectful step parent. Yeah, I feel weird.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I feel like I have to defend Gabe, but I don't know enough about this. What video game is it?
Arcanum.
What the hell is Arcanum? Is it
Arcanum is a CRPG in a world Batman? Of like, no, it's not.
Oh,
it's a CRPG where you're kind of in a world of 19th century Victorian England, but also there's magic and Marxism, and there's a whole JQ subplot. Have fun with that. It's a great game. Yes, it is steampunk, but like that technology doesn't work around magic. It's fun. It's a great game. It's well written. It's fantastic. Can't recommend it enough. You can go get it basically for free. Go play it. It
sounds like a jumbled mess the way you're describing it, but
well, there's a whole plot line that involves a religion that was made up to keep a certain false, evil character at bay who's treated as like the chosen one, but he's not. And then you have orcs and dwarves and I'll let them play it. Anyways, can we just shall we get to the super chats?
All right, let's
go for it.
I'm trying to look up Arcanum.
I would love to see Gio. I would love to see Gio play video games so fucking bad.
I would be like Darkside Phil the early days.
I soy jacked a little IRL when I saw the Night Rain DLC trailer drop. I thought that was really good, and I'm looking forward to kicking Artorias' ass again in 4K. But let's start with the super chats on YouTube, and then we will go from here. Oh wow, I saw the generous one.
This doesn't look like it's a game with a lot of deep lore.
It's in the gameplay. It's in the story. Gabe will suffer under the Cain code until he is remolded in David's image. The image of Frog Brood picking up the Apu Frog Goat Underground. I like that idea. It's fun.
Is it called the Rise of Akan?
No. It's Arcanum.
How do you spell this?
Arcanum, ARCKANUM, semicolon, of Steamworks and Magic Obscura.
Oh, I was looking at some stupid like mobile game.
No, this is from Troika Games. This is
Steamworks of Magic Obscurum 2001.
Yeah, it's a great time.
Oh my
great
God.
time. I'm gonna let's get to the super chats out of the way. You can always send a super chat via YouTube or at Entropy, the pinned comment in the chat, as well as in the description to this video. Your support is greatly appreciated because I am paid for by viewers like you. Gio could pull off playing video games. That's very true. It's a solid game. What do you mean DLC? Night Rain is already a DLC. Well, there's more DLC to the DLC, and I'm gonna go kick Artorias' ass for like the 80th time in a row. So let's get started. Jew asks JU, I don't want to sound like I'm being completely anti-Semitic. He says, "Hi gents, Prude, any updates on the King of the Hill review?" Yeah, I'm gonna probably actually as soon as I finish watching it with my fiance, I'll probably just put it out with more things that I've already read. But it will probably be out probably next week or something like that. Randall Shirker for $5 says, "Is anyone else fed up using the term panicking whenever you say anything negative about what the administration is doing?" I think that we're almost a year in. I think that it's okay to criticize the administration, but I also want the administration to succeed in some of its campaign promises. So I try to walk a fine line, but I am very tired. And I think Gio and I have talked about this before on the show, where I don't like the plan trusting / panicking dichotomy. I think that that's really unproductive for
thought terminating cliche.
Yeah. I don't think it's good.
It's to corral your opinion in towards, never criticizing anything, because then, I don't know, a lot of people are very heavily invested in a political project because the alternative is sort of like looking into an abyss. And I understand like the psychological motivations behind it, but I think like, not to say the abyss is preferable of a 1,000-year Democrat reign forever, but yeah, I mean, I don't.
But I think at the end of the day, in the next super chat, kind of comes into this.
All right,
and I wrote about this for the OGC Substack, is that your friends are really worth their weight in gold. And if you don't have an IRL network, like I hate to sound like such a business guy, where it's like your network is your net worth, but it really is. Like the connections I've made online that have transferred into my real life have been vital for some of the things I do with my career, IRL, as well as the things that I want to do in the future, and the advice that I've been given from online anons that are now my friends IRL, or my brothers in Christ as well. So I mean, like, not Grim saying like insulate yourselves from the horde, all is lost. Like, even if you think that all is lost, or that there's a fight to be had, regardless of your position on the issues, you should always have that cadre, and your insulation is going to be your network and your communities. Like, even if you're like a prepper or a guy who thinks like the big igloo is right around the corner, you can train all you want, but do you know a guy that can, like, do you know your neighbors? Do you know like who can you rely on if power were to go out and things like that? I think those things are really important in consideration. Yeah, I'm going to also agree with his next super chat. I think that what James has said in his work is very true. But Blood Base just becomes a channel member. Thank you. You guys get to see the Discourse Corner episode earlier with Volpez, where we talk about civil society. It's definitely on there. This is to not Grim continuing with James Kirkpatrick's statement on the purpose of modern America and now Western life. We have been killed culture. People have nothing in common anymore, no common values, no common touch points. And the mass media and mass immigration have facilitated those things entirely. I agree. Son of Haster says, regarding natalism, Poe the Person has a great video on why so much parenting advice is anti-natalist. I like Poe the Person. I like her work as a sort of like an artist. She's done a lot of stuff for our friends in the past, and I think that she's a mother with a good head on her shoulders, and necessarily to have. Not Grim says, we have turned our nation into schizophrenics, mindlessly repeating memes that only schizos from their micro subcultures understands. Jay Burden. No, it's true.
Go ahead, Prudent.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, to his previous point, to Grim's previous point, like, there's a vast array of like historical reasons that have gone into like why things are this way, but also I think the inability of the mass media and mainstream society in terms of various media and cultural and political institutions, the sort of inability to deal with fragmentation of all life and culture in a very deep level has sort of like led them to embrace either like covering it over and giving you a fake plastic nonsensical version of mainstream consensus reality, or to embrace it and just let any form of the unified culture swill down the drain. And both of those options are politically and culturally advantageous to various elite players. And you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it just depends on the strategy that's adopted. But the way that you respond to it is something that is, I think, has the potential to be different. And that maybe living in that world of difference and fragmentation is something that must be reckoned with rather than rejected, with an appeal to a sort of very small time frame, a very small moment in time where, you know, whatever you want to call it, liberal democracy on the global scale, the post-Cold War consensus, blah, 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 had the appeal of being this unified force that is reliant on just the natural conclusion of things. And like in the absence of that, you know, to see it for what it is yeah, quite different. So anyways.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's the great fragmentation of our culture. I mean, this is also why so much of our mass media has died, is because there's been this great fraction or shattering of media. Like, no one the internet itself has functionally broken all previous models of what was considered consensus, right? Like, we know this. We know that the world as we know it is functionally different than what it was prior to the smartphone age. And this pre-smartphone era of culture is gone. And we all know that it's gone. And because of that, we now live in a world where Gio and I can live somewhat close in media environments, but also live in two totally different ones. I don't listen to half the stuff that Gio listens to or considers authoritative, and I'm sure it's the same way for him and what I consider authoritative. And even though we're co-hosts talking about these same things, those kind of like differences do kind of, I think, help in providing
true.
A good take on things. However, because of that, Burden's like sort of statement there from Not Grim Super Chat is accurate, because I live in a world where my frame of reference is going to be based on a few key phrases or memes that are going to determine, can I reveal my power level, so to speak, to this guy? And if I can, that's even better. But odds are I can't. And then like you're left being really much with this sensation that, oh, I'm alone.
Yeah.
And what the hell am I doing here? You know, like that's worse.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Because now it's like, oh, I am functionally isolated, and you're left with just pondering, well, what the hell am I going to do with that?
It's confronting the individualization of being towards death, in this case being towards media,
and also just like a really and just an insane amount of atomization too, because it's like, well, now what? Well, really, you're left kind of to face the world as it is. And the world as it is that like you are really screaming into a void of screams. And you and I have called the internet that, and so has Alaric and countless others. That, hey, well, actually, the world that you live in is just like a schizophrenic void of people screaming, hoping somehow you'll get heard too. And if you play your cards right,
it's
like
dark,
somehow, you know, you'll be understood, and those around you will be able to share in your own experiences.
Yeah.
And, like, you too can understand what that's like. And it's like, well, is it? You know, like you're forced to ask uncomfortable questions.
Right. And then and then of course everyone, you know, at a certain point has to make a choice as to what they're doing and if it's worth it. And
yeah, and I mean that's
be very scary.
It is scary because like you're now forced to confront like, hey, have I just spent like the last, I don't know, X number of years of my life living a lie? Has this like garnered me any like real profit? Have I just made myself a pariah in a world that is already full of pariahs?
Right.
And
but some people have no shame, and so it doesn't matter to them.
That's also true.
That's, you know what I mean? Like some people don't have any form of self-reflexivity or shame. Hence why like this sort of like, you know, how many lol cows can you name? A lot, you know, like it's, and yeah, a lot of people, they don't have shame for other reasons. And it's like, I don't know. It's you can go into like what makes people tick. You can go into the vast array of psychological and personal mechanisms as to like why people go down certain roads that make them into pariahs, that make them beclown themselves. But at the end of the day, I think there is a sort of heart of darkness there that is very intoxicating. It's an abyss inside of oneself that takes over.
Yeah,
And
and you're to confront it.
exactly, yeah, yeah. And I think all lolcows at the end of the day they share that sort of abysmal character, if you will. They're staring into the heart of darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me go refresh and make sure everything's good on this end. All right, cool. Carrying on. Blood Based. It was very generous. He sends $50 American dollars.
$50 American dollars.
That's very generous of you, sir. He says, "I appreciate you guys.
Let's get some subs."
I appreciate it, sir. This stuff makes sure. I mean, I have insurance and everything, but most of my YouTube money has been going either towards the usual expense of making sure I don't pay really any out-of-pocket costs with my anti-rejection drugs, but also your super chats have been making paying off the wedding a lot easier and affording those things. So I greatly appreciate it. With Templar for $10 says just popped in to find 2 Wigapigs. Oh, welcome to it's the Slaughterhouse fade, and you can blame Howling Mutant for this one.
Man.
Lethemplar continues. He says, "The world is your slop pen, gentle porks." That's very true.
Yeah.
We got to bring home the bacon somehow. Not Grim says, "I hope you enjoyed Grizzly Bear's Yellow House." By the way,
Grizzly Bear's Yellow House. What's that?
It's an album
from
2006. I did. I like the song Central and Remote. And also Little Brother's okay. Carrying on, he sends another one. Well, you've been really generous today, not Grim. He says, "I feel like Arthur in Red Dead Redemption 2 with these donations, giving all my money to you guys and saying, just get out of here and live your life. This is done." I do.
Oh man.
I mean, I don't think this conversation ever got published because I think so much had happened in between his content schedule. But like, I did an interview with Ben Boyce. This was like even before Pascha, before Easter. So this was like back in the springtime, and he had said, "Prude, you live most of your life offline." And I said, "Yeah, it's just the sliver of my life that I live online happens to be some of the most consequential because more people know me as the frog than they do who I am IRL." So no, I mean, like, but also, I mean, I do recommend that people live their lives to the best of their ability. If they can escape some of the nonsense here and find a way to make do, then do so. But I'm going to go on over to Entropy and see if anyone has sent anything there. We've got 2 today. Sam153 for $10 says, "A bunch of oh boy, yeah, the Heritage Foundation stuff. Seeing Heritage Foundation cuck and reaffirm how worthless are they without any self-awareness seems like the norm to me. Is there any chance that they realize how unpopular these losers are?" I think it's also in understanding that the right doesn't have it's not capable yet to shake off the control certain groups have in Washington. And also keep in mind, like, despite the quote unquote vibe shift, we can't even cancel Jimmy Kimmel. Despite blatantly lying. We can't get, I mean, you and I are both mutuals with Fisher King, and he had said like 600 people got arrested in January of 2021 when Biden took office. And a lot of them with like no habeas corpus, without any real constitutional rights. We haven't done shit. Like, this administration has not done anything. And I think that this is also where you get that desire to see, like, I want you to behave like the left behaves. I really want my enemies to have the jackboot of the state down their neck, because they've been doing it to me for all my life. And so I think that it's just proof that what we're witnessing right now is an inquisition against those that don't want to be tied to a certain political faction in the United States. And they're paying for it. Like the guy who simply said, "Hey, I am a Catholic, and I think that Fridays are important because Fridays are the observation in which we keep in our minds and hearts that Christ has been crucified." It's the same thing with the Orthodox. That's why we fast on Fridays. And it's like, and he's all like, "I'm afraid that like me saying no to the Shabbat dinner is going to be considered a political litmus test." Recorded, posted, doxed. Like, holy shit. Yeah. So no, I think it does come to the simple conclusion that like the right doesn't understand the weird position it's in since October 7th, and neither does the left has made their case, but now it's like, hey, we'd like to break free from some of this, and it's like, well, this the consequences of it.
No,
Oswald
the
Art.
thing is,
Go
it's
ahead.
deeply no, but to them, it's like deeply ingrained morally.
Oh yeah,
and they have this like form of guilty conscience and bad faith that they've been slotted on the political side that is harboring this deep evil, and that's why they operate the way they do. Whereas the political left doesn't have that, because there was really no mass consequences for global communism when it slaughtered millions upon millions of people, except for it falling apart. But like that was, the reprisals were more done on the average Russian person when the Soviet Union fell, and you had, that all the stuff that happened in the 90s. But in terms of like the government, in terms of what happened, I mean, the sort of like mass consciousness towards the different sides, I mean, that's a pretty basic explanation, but that's true. Like, it's not that, I mean, yes, people are being paid off or whatever, but it's more of like, this is what they actually believe. And if you actually, for example, if you, I think it was Yoram Hazony that went on that Ezra Klein podcast, that's like a pretty good outline of what these people actually believe. It's actually quite a good interview about like national conservatism versus these evil, scary people, these, Groypers or Nietzscheans or whoever, or, even, and so
the respective boogeymen that they can now use to leverage against civil society.
Yeah.
And not in the like participatory sense. I mean like civil society as in like the entire like armed wing of NGOs and anti-extremism experts to police the right.
And people like David French will go along with it. And
because
people
they know
like
their
now,
job. And their job is to clarify, contain, conserve, nothing.
You know who the best
They're like the gay SCP Foundation, but even more gay because it has real world consequences.
All those people like part of the Lincoln Project, like people like George Conway, Sarah the artist George Conway, although he's got Trump derangement syndrome, but like, I mean, all the like people like Conway, or like Wilson, what's his stupid fucking name?
Jason Wilson, the
not the doxing journalist, the former conservative Lincoln Project guy.
I don't remember off the top of my head his name.
Douglas
Wilson.
Doug Wilson. No, not Doug Wilson.
That's the pastor. Fuck, I don't know, dude. Just like we get it. I mean? Like, some guy who works for the Lincoln Project. Fuck.
Yeah. Those people, like they're like Rick Wilson. Thank you, Randall. Thank you, Rick Wilson. All those people that like pretended to be conservatives or whatever, but like conservatism is like tax cuts or what, or like
the quote
rich
unquote
people
small
getting small government, which really means like rich people get ahead and you get fuck all because you're a terrible evil pillbilly welfare queen. All those people, like as soon as there was an inkling of anything different in the political order, although you have to call into question if Trumpism really is that different, but for argument's sake, any sort of inkling towards a different form of the political spectrum, they've met with like extreme, hair-raising, schizophrenic hostility. And these people are like totally gomless existential ciphers for a crumbling mainstream consensus, and they're evil. They're evil. People like George Conway and Rick Wilson, they're evil. People like, I know I shouldn't use that word flippantly, but like it's demonic. These people they're willing to dox you and destroy you and do the bidding of people that hate you. They're worse than traitors. And the thing is, though, at the end of the day, as much as I demonize them and call them evil and terrible and demonic, at the end of the day, you have to realize that they actually believe this. They believe that they're saving something noble and just and correct. And so I can't really hate them too much, because even though there may be backstabbers or whatever, I can't really viscerally, repulsively hate them to such a degree, because at the end of the day, they believe that they're acting upon their principles. It's not even that cynical in a way. I mean, it's cynical the way they con people for many years, such as Michael Corrin here in Canada, but it's not cynical to the degree that they're like, quote unquote, tricking people, or they're lowering your guard by pretending to be conservatives when they're really not. No, they actually do believe in the mainstream transnational progressive liberal consensus. They just believe in a different iteration of it. And they have the supreme guilty conscience over even somewhat bumping up against someone who is more to the right of them. Because that's what they do believe. That is the picture of evil. And so I can't really totally despise and hate them. And I mean, I hate what they do. They've doxed people. They've cast people aside. People like Dinesh D'Souza, on the bidding of people like William F. Buckley, have destroyed whole careers. But at the end of the day, it's not like they're doing it out of the form of being a traitor, because they were never part of the game to begin with. They're not like really betraying the right, because these people are not of the political right.
They're right liberals at best.
Right, they're the right side of liberalism. And so, yes, a lot of people, through trickery and through, very underhanded means, but the current iteration of these people, it's like, that's what they believe. Like when Bill Kristol and Francis Fukuyama had that podcast, and they went up there and they said, is society really so bad that younger people are willing to embrace, something different? It's like, in their life world, society isn't that bad. And,
it's not that bad when you're insulated from the worst aspects of our great.
But who's the real traitor? People that pretend to be on your side and then later steer you in a different direction. That's different. That's different than George Conway and Rick Wilson and David French, because everyone knows that these people are clowns and they're little Jannying for the same regime that hates you. But I think it's different. So I wouldn't exactly call them traitors. But I would say that they are operating off of a belief system that they believe to be like, Grim mentioned that other guy in the chat with the beard and talking about the primitive root. That's different though. That is betrayal. That is being a traitor. But people like Rick Wilson and David French, I'm not so much, because these people were always that way.
You get to see true colors.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that the current political situation has made them pick sides, and it's not shocking what side they've picked. So there you go.
You gotta pick the side of comfort over any potential.
And it's so pathetic. Like that clip from the No Kings protest where George Conway is like dancing. You're trying to get these boomers to dance against Trump. Like that was comedy, man. That was pretty. It's like, here's like, I forget who said it. Like protesting is like the boomer religion. It's like going to church.
Yeah, you gotta relive all your all your memories of the countercultural schema of the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
So, but we'll carry on here real quick. Next super chat, I guess. There's been a few. He says, Oswald Art says, Gio finally posting art. Finally, my efforts finally paid off. He says, I love the icon, Prude. Are the pigs new frogs? No, we're just doing a bit. We're just doing a bit.
Yeah.
So no, just doing the bit. But yeah, I'm also very glad to have my Saturdays back. I'm so glad that icon has been finished painting. Very glad it's done. But no, you do not have to change any other designs. We're just doing it for this episode. Sex Freakman for $10. He says, you say they have a guilty conscience for being slotted in on the evil side, but I think there's a case to be made that they are in it precisely because they get to be one of the good ones on that evil side. I think that there is a messianic complex to it, or a self-sacrificial death desire. Yeah, I'm sure there's something there to it. But here we are, just like Luhmann describes, psychologizing. Sean Schaefer for $3. He says, here are some of my Warhammer money just despite Gio. Well, there you go.
Boy.
There we go. And that is why I am pro insulation or migration. Yeah, I understand. Oh, I've had his super chat up this whole time. My bad. But that's why I'm pro insulation or migration. Yeah, I'm definitely pro remigration and pro insulation for friends. But that is all the super chats that we have for this evening. So for my dear listeners and viewers, I will have a full, I'll have the trailer video out for the Discourse Corner number 7. That'll be out this Thursday. If you are a channel member, you can go see it already right now by just, I think it's like $1.99 a month. You can support what I do here on YouTube. Subscribe Star is always the preferred option. I will have that uploaded tomorrow as well. For all those on Subscribe Star, I'll have some other fun stuff coming down the works as well. And the next week will be on Gio's channel. And then on the 24th, I will have another episode of Do You Even Read? And we're covering some more progressive literature. We like to alternate between left-wing literature and some of the based right-wing stuff. So we're keeping it fresh. We're keeping it live. But for us, this episode is finally on its way to the slaughterhouse. But before we get chopped up into little bacon bits, Gio, what do you have going on?
Well, to quote Vincent Gallo, I finally get to do the pigs, the scum, they're terrible. If I called him a pig, he's a pig. That was the greatest Howard Stern interview ever. No, I have that painting video where I talk about the nature of looking at your old work as an artist, and hopefully every Monday I could release one of these things. And I have that interview with Astral, and I think tomorrow I'm doing Paul Thomas Anderson film with Jay Bird, and I don't know if when that's going to be released. And hopefully this week I can get out a Content Minded or something of the equivalent. So I'll see if I can, we'll see what happens. So yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've got a lot of fun stuff down.
I'm working on I'm working on an article too. I'm reviewing a lesser known but incredible Twitter video artist. So it's a surprise. So we'll see what happens. It's not Emily Yukis. Somebody else. Yeah. Anyways.
Well, all right. Well, we'll be live next week, and we'll see you then.
God bless. Goodbye. Too sweet.
See you, gents.